What's up guys, this is your favorite fanfic YouTuber, the Fanfic Majesty, and welcome to another amazing video. You can follow me on Patreon for exclusive stories. 3CD61 Are you ready to be a king? Asking for collections, flowers, and evaluation votes. Advertisement, Master Ming. Did I make a mistake somewhere? We celestial dragons haven't had a king for a long time, haven't we? Why do we suddenly have one now, and it's Ivanlow's? Calm down. I know this is very shocking and difficult for everyone to accept, but this was something that was decided almost 10 years ago. Yes, all 5 of us unanimously approved this matter, and the decision we made is a continuation of the first-generation Dragon King Iam's will. She chose Ivan Ross. How is it possible? That legendary Lord Iam actually. Everyone who was originally extremely opposed was completely dumbfounded after hearing this sentence. They looked at the 5 elders stupidly, and then looked at Ivan, unable to calm down their thoughts for a long time. Why is this happening? Arma's, Ivan, brother. Even Shirley, who was next to Ivan, couldn't help but be confused, looking at Ivan and muttering to herself. Ever since she was a child, she actually liked following Ivan. Because he behaved differently from everyone else, she was quite annoyed at first. But as time went by, she felt that her thoughts seemed to have changed along with it. Unknowingly, I also fell in love with him, but I was also worried about him. Because she knew that brother Ivan hated what the other celestial dragons did and didn't even bother to associate with them. But like this, he was isolated, and no celestial dragons were willing to help him. If something really happened, the other celestial dragons would only add insult to injury. Just like this time, she was really worried, fearing that her brother Ivan, her man, would really be punished severely. Therefore, she also begged her father, thinking that she must ask him not to punish him. Fortunately, although her father looked very troubled at the time, he made it clear that he would not punish him severely, which reassured her. But now it seems that instead of punishing him severely, we will give him a big surprise. If brother Ivan becomes the Heavenly Dragon King, wouldn't she also be able to become the Heavenly Dragon Queen? Hoo, this feeling is so happy. Armas, no, it's impossible. I absolutely don't believe it. Is there any evidence? The old woman from before was the most excited at this time, and her eyes were as wide as copper bells, staring at the 5 elders. But the tone is actually not that strong. There is no way. All celestial dragons must obey the orders of the 5 elders unconditionally. If they all express their own opinions, they can each have their own support. But now, with all 5 of them standing on the same line, there is absolutely nothing they can do. Advertisement. This is right. The celestial dragons, who usually seem to be at the pinnacle of power, are just like ants in front of the 5 elders. However, how could she bear it when her son turned into a cripple like this? Our words are evidence. But the 5 elders didn't even look at the old woman, but said something silently. Then they walked directly to Ivan and asked, also saying extremely exciting words. So, Ivan, when we officially ascend the throne and become king, we will also formally swear allegiance to you. Are you ready? Oh my god. Allegiance of the 5 elders. That is really the pinnacle of power in the entire world. Everyone began to look at Ivan in anticipation, wanting to see his reaction. I can't do anything by myself, so I may not be a qualified king. It's not easy to find me, right? What made them a little dumbfounded was that he didn't look as ecstatic as everyone expected, but instead acted very calmly, even eating silently while refusing. Depend on. This is what many people dream of, but what they didn't know was that Ivan was really reluctant. How good is his life now? No one cares about anything he does, and anime girls keep appearing. How can he be better than a living god? Why did his godmother give him a throne for no reason? Wouldn't it be nice if she did it on her own? It doesn't matter, you don't need to do anything, just agree. Anyway, you already know the truth of the world, and based on your performance, we believe that you will definitely become an excellent king. Oh, okay, if it doesn't matter anyway, it doesn't matter if I take the role. XN depend on. This kid actually looked disgusted. If it's not appropriate, just let us do it, but now, naturally no one dares to say it. Even the old woman could only look at Ivan with gritted teeth at this time, but she did not dare to speak. Now, her son is still alive at least, and with world-conquering technology, getting a good prosthetic limb is not a problem. But if you continue to provoke him, I'm afraid. The members of my own family will all suffer. 62 The flattering celestial dragons, please collect flowers and comment votes. Advertisement. Sister, there are still quite a few people near the door, and it seems that many of them are celestial dragons. Yeah, it's so strange. Paula stood by the window, looking at the group of people dressed gorgeously and with a large lineup not far from the door. Sonia and Mary tilted their heads curiously, and then asked Hancock, who was sitting on the sofa behind them. Their house is usually quiet, and basically no one will disturb them. After all, Master Ivan has always been hated by other celestial dragons. But today, the group of celestial dragons who usually wanted to hide from Master Ivan, but guarded their door in groups. The tables and chairs have even been set up, as if they spontaneously regarded the place as a picnic spot, chatting with each other there, and seemed very excited. Robin, what are they talking about? Did you hear it? Hancock also asked Robin nervously, and Robin crossed his hands in front of him at this time, with his eyes closed, obviously using his ability. Her ability is to grow hands from a distance, and then grow ears and eyes on them, so she can eavesdrop and see a lot of things. Lord Ivan and his friends have not returned yet, so they who were left at home don't know what happened, and they were ordered not to go out, so now they can only understand the situation through Robin's ability. I heard it, but the content seems a bit exciting. What's the matter? Hearing this, the three sisters couldn't help but feel a little worried, and all looked at Robin. After spending some time together, they have discovered Robin is very smart, knows a lot of things, and his ability is very convenient, so they now discuss many things with Robin. Could it be that Lord Ivan was severely punished, and they came here to sneer? No way. Impossible. At this time, the three sisters also began to have all kinds of brain holes and wild thoughts. Before, Lord Ivan took Mrs. Seeds and others out, and it is said that all celestial dragons will go to participate. After all, it was Mrs. Seeds who did such an extreme thing, so there might really be some punishment in the end. And the key is that Lord Ivan and his men have not returned yet, which is what they are most worried about. Don't worry, it's okay. How do you know? Because Lord Ivan and his men have returned. X3 hearing this, the three sisters stood up excitedly and looked towards the window again. When they saw the familiar man getting off the car not far away, and the three beautiful women in evening dresses beside him, the three of them immediately trotted out excitedly. Lord Ivan. Are you okay? Advertisement Hancock took the lead and asked immediately, and although the two sisters did not speak, the eagerness in their eyes had already explained their thoughts. Although it seemed that there were no traces of fighting on their bodies, they were still very worried about what the actual punishment would be. Don't worry, it's okay, or rather, I encountered some interesting good things. But before Ivan could speak, Shinobu on the side had already answered with a chuckle, which made people feel a little confused. That's right, but I think that's the position that Ivan-sama should have, and it should be like this. At this time, Albedo also nodded, and then said something that made the three sisters even more confused. Then do I count as helping? If it weren't for me, maybe it wouldn't have happened so quickly. It seems that I have done a good thing. X3 But in the end, even a Seeds, who had caused trouble before, laughed and teased at this time, and seemed a little complacent, which made the three sisters roll their eyes. Isn't it just something you caused? How can you say that you did a good thing? You just know how to cause trouble for Ivan-sama. Don't say it, a Seeds, you almost broke the basket. But for her complacent look, Ivan finally couldn't help but complain, and then knocked her head with his hand. After seeing her slightly shrinking her head, Ivan smiled and nodded with satisfaction, and then said to the three sisters. Okay, let's go back first. I'm tired now. I need to take a shower first. Okay, Lord Ivan, but those celestial dragons outside the door, don't care about them? Hancock nodded obediently, but couldn't help looking at the group of celestial dragons behind him who were stopped not far from the door. It doesn't matter, they can wait or not. What are they doing here? But after hearing Ivan's words, Hancock had more and more small questions in her mind. But seeing their anxious faces, she was a little worried. After all, the other party has a large number of people, and I don't know if there will be trouble. They are. Lord Ivan, please forgive my previous poor eyesight. Saint Ivanrose. Our child was ignorant before, and I'm sorry for causing you trouble, please don't mind. Lord Ivan. What do you think of my daughter? She has actually been worshipping you since she was a child. X3 Ah this. What's going on? Are these celestial dragons who are flattering so loudly impersonated from somewhere? 63 Forbearance, be coquettish to me, please collect, flowers, evaluation votes. Advertisement, are you going to become the king of celestial dragons? Amazing. As expected of Lord Ivan, after hearing the words of the man in front of them, the three little sisters couldn't help but widen their innocent eyes, and then they looked at him with shock and ecstasy on their faces, and their three little faces were almost touching. It's nothing serious, I didn't do it, it was my godmother who fixed it on me. Godmother? Is she your mother? It turns out she is such a powerful person? Hancock was very excited and put his little hands in front of him, clasping them tightly, with a look of longing on his face, which made Ivan feel helpless. He was also a little bit dumbfounded by his godmother's sudden decision. Gaining a special status should indeed be considered a good thing. After all, people who had always been full of ill will towards him in the past wanted to apologize to him and become relatives. It was obvious that he had been hiding for a while before, but this group of people came directly to his door. They scolded themselves as nothing, and then praised him as a flower. Even Ivan himself felt strange, when did he become so excellent? But actually this is considered human nature. The more powerful people, especially those like the celestial dragons who are accustomed to enjoying a luxurious life, are most afraid of losing power. If they were really demoted to ordinary people, they would definitely be worse off than dead. So one by one, they all started to fawn over him. But they actually thought too much, and they had no intention of revenge at all. After all, this group of people had basically been taught a lesson by him before, so they could be considered clean. I really never thought about giving them small shoes or anything after taking the position. If he really thought that way, he could have just told his godmother before, and he would definitely kill them without even knowing who did it. Of course, that would be too narrow-minded. As for those who promoted his daughters, sisters and himself, those made him even more speechless, and this kind of promotion was even harder to push. So in the end, Ivan asked them all to go find Shirley, and let her, the main palace, help solve some troubles, so that he could calm down for a while. Yes, Lord I Am is a very great man. But at this time, Robin, who was reading silently on the side, couldn't help but nodded in agreement. Huh? Robin, do you know Lord Ivan's mother? Well, I went with Master Ivan to meet him once before. Master Yimu is very great. When he said this, little Robin, who had become much calmer recently, couldn't help but nodded vigorously and answered in a very affirmative tone. Advertisement. After knowing the truth about the world, she already had great admiration for Lord I Am. Although his mother and others are also victims of the truth, Master I Am has paid more. I Am, the former king of the first-generation celestial dragons, lived 800 years ago. He always stuck to his position and ended the world's crises time and time again, but almost no one knew. She worked really hard. So, since Lord Ivan will become the second heavenly dragon king, I will definitely work hard to learn knowledge and assist you, Lord Ivan. Little Robin's eyes began to brighten, and she looked up at Ivan excitedly. Well, thank you for your hard work, Robin. Jean Ivan couldn't help but smile, stretched out his hand, placed it on her little head, and touched it gently. Lord Ivan, we will work hard. X3. Hey, Hancock, Sonia, Mary, you guys have worked hard too. After seeing the three young girls on the side who were beginning to be jealous and expressing their loyalty, Ivan reached out his hand again in a fit of laughter and made the same move to them respectively, which soon made them smile with satisfaction. Ah, everyone is still acting like a spoiled child to the Lord. The children are really good. At this time, Shinobi, who was sitting next to him, also chuckled and said words that made the atmosphere more warm. Fortunately, Albedo is not here, otherwise, she might also have to compete for favor. She is now in the kitchen with the seeds, saying she is going to make a big meal to celebrate or something. Well, although the cooking skills of these two people may not be satisfactory, their heart is still worthy of praise. If you get a daughter like this, what else can a husband ask for? You can act coquettishly to me if you want. Lord, do you think I am still a child? It's not that only children can act coquettishly. You are my woman. If you want anything, you can ask for it. I don't have anything in particular I want to do. There is nothing I particularly want to do in this world. Don't you want to see your sister, 64 the strongest loser, asking for collections, flowers, and evaluation votes? Advertisement. Lord, are you sure that what you just said is my sister? After a long time, Ren finally spoke with a smile and asked Ivan softly. Her gentle smile looked the same as usual, but Ivan, who was familiar with her, could see her current state at a glance. The emotions have been forcibly suppressed, and now it should be a complicated mood of surprise and tension. Of course, don't worry, the ones I summon are not limited to living characters. Even if they are dead, there is no problem. Hearing Ivan's smiling and relaxed answer, Shinobu fell into silence again, and even his smile stiffened slightly. Of course, this does not mean that she is unhappy, but she is very happy. However, this sudden burst of happiness prevented her from reacting for a moment. Didn't you say before that the summons is relatively random? How could you specify my sister? But she soon reacted and asked with a smile. She was summoned now, which was actually less than 3 months ago, but she had also asked if she could summon someone from the same world as her. But what the Lord said at the time was that it was very difficult, quite demanding, and relatively random, so she didn't force it. But why do you suddenly say yes now? Well, I can't tell clearly at the moment, and the conditions for summoning are relatively harsh, but I will summon her after a month. Ivan didn't explain much. After all, the more you talk about this kind of thing, the more troublesome it becomes. In fact, to put it bluntly, it was because he was still short of money before, so he wanted to put the money in a place where it could be more useful. It seems that Celestial Dragons is never short of money, but he is actually always short of money. After all, as I said before, it was mainly due to the fact that Shinobu and Albedo had consumed a lot. But now, of course, he doesn't need to care. If you specifically summon a character, the number of points you need to summon will be determined based on the opponent's identity, strength, appearance, abilities and other aspects. Shinobu's sister, Butterfly Kanae, is a beautiful beauty, and her strength is not weak. But even if it is designated, it Only costs 500 points. After all, Kanae's strength is not considered top-notch. Advertisement of course, for him now, these points are already very few. The godmother gave him more than 10 eternal night orbs, but he did not exchange them for them. Instead, he gave each of them one to keep on their bodies to keep them clean. As for money, he is really not short of money now. Even if he is really short of money, he can still go to his godmother to ask for it. Well, I always feel that I have indeed become a soft rice man. Of course, Ivan really enjoyed eating such fragrant soft rice, and there was no pressure at all. No, let's wait until after the World Summit is over. Huh? Don't you want to see your sister sooner? Of course I have. But during this period, my lord may be very tired, so I think it would be better for you to concentrate more or take more rest. I won't interfere with your plans. Anyway, we haven't seen each other for so many years. It's not more than a month away. Well, if that's the case, I'll summon you when the time comes. Anyway, don't worry, I will summon your sister who is exactly the same. After hearing what Rendu said, Ivan naturally didn't say anything more and just followed her wishes. Anyway, it doesn't matter if he summons him at any time. Oh, of course, there is still a gap of more than 20 days between summons. In fact, it is about an extra month of waiting. Then I'm looking forward to it. Shinobu also chuckled and answered, and then gently held Hancock's little heads in his arms and touched them. Let your heart calm down a little. In fact, letting Ivan relax before summoning is just one of the reasons. There is another reason, which is her own idea. To be honest, she doesn't know yet whether she should go see her sister. Even if her appearance looks the same as what she remembered before, will her sister really be recognized by the other party? Am I still the butterfly ninja of the original world? Regarding this, she still needs to be a little mentally prepared. Otherwise, she doesn't know how she will feel when she sees her sister. 65 Princess Scarlet. Asking for collections, flowers, and evaluation votes. Advertisement time flies by so quickly that people are immersed in it unconsciously. By the time I came back to my senses, too much time had been wasted. Of course, there are also those who are immersed in serious things and spend their time to the fullest. Especially during this period, the heads of various countries are making very serious preparations. After all, the Quadrennial World Summit is about to take place during this period. The monarchs of 170 countries that are members of the world government come to the Holy Land Marijoy every 4 years to discuss issues related to security and order around the world. As long as there are no major domestic conflicts, countries will basically come to participate. However, in the past few years, countries with domestic conflicts are more likely to come over. After all, in this era of rampant pirates, it would indeed be quite dangerous if there was no support from world conquest. Of course, the meeting time cannot be completed in one day, and some countries are very far away, and it takes a month or two to come here. But some countries are relatively close, so it only takes a few days. So at this time, as the accompanying princes and princesses, they will naturally spend more time here. As for Marijoy, forget it for now, it is relatively small and quite boring. Therefore, the bustling Sabodi archipelago below has naturally become the favorite of the princes and nobles. As the headquarters of Marine and the center of world conquest, the prosperity of this place is rare in the entire world. Lord Scarlet. Please don't run so fast, this is not Dressrosa. It doesn't matter, I don't want to play here, I just want to see more of the customs here for future reference in our own country, and I will behave seriously when I am up there. At this time, several guards were shouting helplessly to a crimson-haired girl in a dress. However, this girl, who was only about 13 or 14 years old, with a rather immature face, but already quite a figure, was looking at the lively streets around her with curiosity, and she looked very excited. Alas, there is no way. Not to mention coming to such a big place, as a princess of a country, it was even her first time to go abroad, which gave these guards a headache. Please be careful, Lord Scarlet. Here, there are many royal families from other countries, and there are also world nobles called celestial dragons. If you have conflicts with them at this time, it may cause a lot of trouble, a serious diplomatic dispute. Celestial dragons. Are they those scumbag royals who are cruel and unscrupulous, living an extremely luxurious life all day long, and then bullying the people and abusing their slaves? Advertisement, shush, XN. But what was even more troublesome was that after hearing the word, celestial dragons, the little princess also frowned, and then directly said something quite dangerous. All the guards around her couldn't help but hurriedly put their hands to her mouth to remind her not to talk nonsense. Oh my god. Her voice is not quiet at all. There are a lot of people here now. It would be too bad if someone overheard and reported it. I know, there are no celestial dragons coming here anyway. I heard that those people were very grand. When passing by, other people were kneeling on the ground, and they rode slaves and walked slowly over. Where? It will be here. However, the princess herself was somewhat dismissive of their concerns. She still knew something about the celestial dragons. After all, Their country is relatively poor, and they still have to give the so-called heavenly gold to celestial dragons every year, which makes her very unhappy. How great would it be if I could save a large sum of money and use it to improve people's livelihood? If that were the case, Dressrosa would have developed long ago. Why would we wait until now when there are so many people living in poverty? Fortunately, after my father's hard work over the years, things have improved a lot. Although they are a little poor, everyone is working hard and conscientiously, so it is not said that some people will be so poor that they starve to death. But the more I think about it, the angrier I get. Why can the celestial dragons live such an excessively luxurious life? Their legs must be broken and they are in trouble, so they keep using slaves to walk. Allah, actually, now I have switched to using a car instead of a slave. Wow. XN. But after hearing the sudden gentle voice, Scarlet and the guards couldn't help being startled, and then nervously looked at the man who bent forward and stretched out his right hand. Put it to your mouth and gently poke your little head towards the beautiful girl. Scared to death. When did this person show up? Advertisement 66 Celestial Dragons changes. Asking for collections, flowers, and evaluation votes. Advertisement, please don't be so nervous, I'm not a suspicious person. Only those who are not suspicious would say that. Who are you? Seeing the smiling girl in front of them say these words to them, Scarlet was extremely nervous, fearing that what she had just said would be used as leverage. Now, she also regrets why she didn't listen to the captain of the guard just now. If there is really something wrong, it will be dangerous. My name is Butterfly Ninja, I'm just passing by. I just heard you talking about the celestial dragons, so I couldn't help but explain it. Princess Scarlet of Dressrosa. XN got recognized. Or was it just heard? Scarlet and the others were a little nervous. After all, it was really their own fault that had to be dealt with first. If you are really caught up in the celestial dragons and scream, there will definitely be no good fruit to eat, and it will be very detrimental to the country. After all, I met you once when I was in Marijoy. Are you from the celestial dragons? Hearing this, Scarlet couldn't help but ask. The people above, except for people from other countries, the rest should be mostly celestial dragons and their men. Judging from the sword hanging on this woman's waist, it should belong to a subordinate of celestial dragons. Well, it does count. My master is Ivanlos, one of the celestial dragons. Oops, it turns out to be related to celestial dragons. This woman seems to be smiling now. Who knows what kind of report she will make behind their backs later. However, there seems to be no point in worrying now, I can only resign myself to fate. Haha, the extreme expressions are really interesting, but don't worry, I don't want to expose your thoughts. After all, except for my master, the remaining celestial dragons are basically as you just said, he looks like a scumbag. XN. Well, it seems that this person is not a real enemy. I heard that she actually said the word, scum, to describe celestial dragons. It seems that she doesn't like it either. You just said that celestial dragons now uses cars instead of slaves, is that true? Of course, it seems pointless to keep struggling with this issue, it is better to ask more useful questions. Fortunately, this young lady felt surprisingly comfortable. There didn't seem to be any malice in her clear eyes, so Scarlet couldn't help but believe her. Well, to be precise, I only ride on slaves when traveling. However, celestial dragons generally still have slaves, but their lives have improved a lot. Huh? Aren't slaves just slaves? Is there anything that can be improved? But after hearing this, Scarlet couldn't help but feel a little unhappy. She ignored the warning from the captain of the guard and continued to complain along with Shinobu. In her opinion, the status of slave should not exist. Advertisement people are people, whether they are slaves or civilians, they are all people. Her father is still the king without a fight, and has valued peace and put people first for so many years. The most unacceptable thing is the existence of slaves. And as her father's daughter and the princess of Dressrosa, she naturally thinks the same way. Haha, if you just talk about it, it may not be very convincing. Maybe it would be better if you go and see it with your own eyes. Huh? What did you see? There are several celestial dragons nearby. If you are willing, you can come with me to see what the celestial dragons look like now. It always felt like it was a bit dangerous, and even the captain of the guard made a gesture to remind her not to accept it. But, okay, since I have nothing to do now, I might as well go and have a look. Where is it? She is not a shy person either. If she really saw celestial dragons brutally abusing slaves, then she would have to stop it even if it might cause some diplomatic crisis. It's not far behind you, ah. But when they heard this, Scarlet and the surrounding guards couldn't help but turn around and look at the shop behind them. It was a large women's clothing store, and Scarlet actually came to take a look just now because of this place. But this store seems to be quite lively, and there are several big cars with weird shapes parked at the door that look inexplicably cool. Speaking of which, there were a lot of bodyguards standing behind, all standing next to the car, thinking no one was there. Meaning, are the celestial dragons in it? This one looks good, shyly. That color doesn't work. Ivan doesn't like armas. Oh. What about this one? This style is too old-fashioned, armas, and he doesn't like it either. Shinobu, stop being lazy, come here and help me choose armas. Okay, Miss Shirley, this. Are these girls the celestial dragons? It doesn't seem like anything special. 67 celestial dragons little fans, please collect, flowers, evaluation votes. Advertisement. Well, this one is pretty good, armas. Really, doesn't this dress look a bit too simple? Yes, Shirley, didn't you just say that Lord Ivan doesn't like clothes that are too plain? There is a difference between simplicity and simplicity, armas. Ivan doesn't like clothes that are too fancy. It's best to wear something with a hair color similar to yours. This will make it easier to strengthen the impression of armas. XN. After hearing the words of the girl in front of them, the 4 or 5 beautiful girls around them all had a look of surprise on their faces and nodded quickly. Indeed, they usually wear a lot of fancy clothes, but this kind of more civilian clothes are relatively rare. Speaking of which, except for Albedo, who is more gorgeous, the women around Ivan seem to be dressed more simple ly. Such as the one in front of me. Thinking of this, the girls couldn't help but look at Shinobu, who had just walked over. Seeing her wearing a black outfit with a very tight cover, they couldn't help but nod. Indeed, the women around Mr. Ivan are all well dressed, and they should not think of some crooked ways to seduce him. Seeing their appearance, Shinobu chuckled and pursed his lips. These girls are all female celestial dragons. But the difference from 2 months ago is that they no longer wear the so-called bubble hood on their heads, just a layer of gauze. Time flies, and things change even faster for celestial dragons. The impact of those rules and regulations has been evident in the past 2 months. The treatment of slaves has indeed been improved a lot. A group of slaves have been liberated and some slaves have been given good living conditions. This has been significantly relaxed, which was unimaginable before. However, in comparison, the changes in female celestial dragons are greater. Men still wear those bubble hoods. But women, especially younger girls, have basically taken them off. Although it may be difficult to accept it at first, once you get used to it, it feels like it is just like that. There is no difference. On the contrary, it feels troublesome to wear it. Of course, there was only one reason why they took it off. That's because he wants to gain Ivan's favor. Ever since Ivan's identity was revealed by the 5 elders, they have been courting him. Even some girls who had had a lot of unpleasantness with him before started to speak softly. But with so many people coming together, Ivan couldn't handle it, so he left them all to Charlie and Leah. This made Charlie very unhappy, but after being begged by so many people, she still had to take the relationship into account. Advertisement. So she also picked some girls who had a good relationship with her and liked her, and these were the 5 girls. Their personalities have also changed a lot, and they no longer have any excessive behavior towards the slaves. They are considered very obedient, and she is also willing to recognize her as sister, which makes her a little happy. Of course, Charlie Leah no longer wears a head covering. But it wasn't because she wanted to get closer to Ivan, it was just because it was troublesome and tiring. Speaking of which, Shinobu, who is that behind you, armas? But at this time, Charlie also noticed the girl with sakura-colored hair standing not far behind Shinobu, and then asked. I wrote crimson before because the transliteration of scarlet is similar to crimson, the eldest lady of the East, but it looks more like sakura color. Oh, this is Princess Scarlet of Dressrosa. Really? Has Ivan seen her? After Charlie heard this, she looked Scarlet up and down, and then asked a strange question. It made her a little nervous, but she didn't dare to say anything. Although she is a princess of a country, she also knows that the status of celestial dragons is actually much more noble than that of a princess of a small country. When the other party has not done anything excessive, you cannot act too hostile. I've seen it before. My lord was looking at Princess Scarlet for a long time, as if she was fascinated. XN. Hearing this, not only the celestial dragon's girls, but Scarlet herself was also confused. Who looked at her for so long? Don't you have that kind of strange idea? Conscience of heaven and earth, Ivan just thought she looked familiar at the time, and he only recognized her identity later. In this way, Ren was misunderstood, and he took the blame for no reason. Oh, in the future, we will have the opportunity to communicate with armas. My name is Charlie Leah. She is Ivan's fiancé. Please give me some advice. Okay. Please give me some advice. My name is Scarlet. Seeing that the other party actually reached out his hand, Scarlet quickly took it. But I couldn't help but complain a little in my heart. Why do we need to add a fiancé? Couldn't she have misunderstood something? 68 Cruel Celestial Dragons, The Intolerable Princess. The next chapter will be available, please subscribe. Advertisement. Actually, celestial dragons is not as bad as I thought. There are still some reasonable people. Walking on the increasingly deserted streets, Scarlet smiled and said with some emotion, with a hint of joy on the corner of her mouth. She seemed to have misunderstood the rumors. The news she heard about celestial dragons before was always very bad, so she also developed some stereotypes about celestial dragons, thinking that all celestial dragons were bad. But when she was in the clothing store just now, she had a pretty good chat with the female celestial dragons. Although from their words, one can still hear their arrogance and dissatisfaction with the constraints of some rules, but surprisingly they still obeyed the rules and did not do anything out of the ordinary. And the civilians around them didn't seem to be really that afraid of them. After seeing them, they didn't all kneel down as in the rumors, but bowed to them, and then watched them leave in the car. Although this kind of pomp is still quite big, it is much better than the rumors. It seems that there are many things that need to be looked at realistically. No, Lord Scarlet, I think those are probably a relatively small number of cases, or something special has happened recently. The original celestial dragons are really not as easy to talk to as the ones just now. But at this time, the guard captain on the side couldn't help but speak. He didn't want to say too much, after all, the scene just now really surprised him. I've never seen celestial dragons speak so well-naturedly. Last time he came with King Riku, even on Mariajoy, he had seen with his own eyes the brutal celestial dragons, wreaking havoc on the slaves, which was really hard to watch. This is Lord Scarlet's first time here, so he may be lucky enough not to meet that kind of person. But it's better to give it a warning, otherwise you will suffer a loss if you really encounter that kind of thing. Really, I think it's okay. That's because you haven't seen the miserable conditions of those slaves. After many slaves were captured, they were worse off than dead. Yes, Lord Scarlet, I have heard of this matter too. Where did those slaves come from? Hearing this, the smile on Scarlet's face could not help but stiffen, and then she asked with a serious look. Usually the country is subjugated and involved in war. No, I'm talking about where to buy slaves. Lord Scarlet, I want to see the condition of the slaves. If I can really see the celestial dragons, it will be a good time to see what they really look like. Isn't this good? Seeing Scarlet with a look of indignation on her face, the faces of the guards also became a little ugly. Those who buy slaves usually go to slave auction houses. But Lord Scarlet's character is exactly the same as King Riku's, and he doesn't like those bad things. If we really went to that kind of place, who knows whether we would take action directly. If that were the case, it would be very dangerous. But seeing her firm eyes, everyone could only nod in agreement. Sigh, I wonder if I'll run into celestial dragons. Advertisement. 1.2 million. 1.3 million. 10 million. Deal. This beautiful maid lady was finally acquired by our great Saint Castre. XN. After hearing the news, the surrounding audience couldn't help but exclaimed. Although this woman should not be worth the price, it is reasonable to cheer for the buyer. HMPH, although this is average, it's still the best this time. It can still be used, let's take it back and see. The buyer stroked his mustache slightly proudly, and then sighed with satisfaction. The beautiful girl wearing a maid uniform on the stage had a look of despair on her face, and big tears were accumulating in her eyes, as if they would fall at any time. Damn, he is indeed a scumbag. After seeing this scene, a Sakura-haired girl standing not far from the final entrance gritted her teeth and roared angrily. This is the nature of celestial dragons. Lord Scarlet, please be patient, otherwise our country will be in great trouble. Cut. But no matter how annoyed she was still a princess of a country, and she knew that there were some things that she couldn't act out of emotion. So she could only suppress her heavy mood and turned around and went out. But he did not leave, but chose to watch from the outside. When the audience slowly left and dispersed, she did not leave either. Sir Scarlet, let's go. Staying here will only cause trouble in our hearts. We can't change this situation. I know, but seeing this scene makes me really sad. Scarlet, who was standing not far outside the auction house, looked at the crowds of people who were constantly emerging in front of them, but everyone had a satisfied and numb smile on their face, and she also had a look of pain on her face. The people here are used to it and have no sympathy at all. They are really numb. Hurry up. The slave has escaped. This is 10 million. But at this moment, an excited shout suddenly came out from the auction house. The maid she saw before was struggling to escape, with pain on her face, but she was still struggling desperately, as if she had a glimmer of hope, running as far as she could. Boom. But at this moment, a gunshot directly disturbed Scarlet's mind, causing her to widen her pupils, and then looked stupidly at the man wearing a bloated, space suit-like costume with a helmet on his head. A middle-aged man wearing a bubble hood and holding a spear in his hand. Oh, This slave dares to run away. He deserves to die. Someone, take her away, then kneel down and crawl back slowly like a dog. Stop. Hearing this, Scarlet couldn't help it anymore and yelled loudly. Even though there might be trouble, she finally couldn't bear it this time. Is this the true face of celestial dragons? 69 Fake Princess. Take him to my house. Please subscribe for more updates soon. Advertisement. Sir Scarlet. XN. Seeing her princess, she shouted out loudly, and the guards around her turned pale with fright. These are genuine celestial dragons, and this impression is as brutal as the celestial dragons they have seen before. Master Scarlet will be in trouble if he looks like this. But what does Scarlet care about? As a princess, she immediately started to hold up her long skirt slightly, then quickly ran to the maid, and nervously checked her injuries. The power of the gun was not small, and it penetrated directly, causing her current wound to bleed non-stop and a look of pain on her face. Scarlet quickly put the handkerchief in her arms on the maid's wound, asking her to stick it as close as possible. Although it may not have much effect, something must be done after all. Fortunately, although the maid was shot, the location of the shot was not fatal and she should not die. That's too much. Why can you do such a cruel thing without caring? But she was very dissatisfied with the behavior of that celestial dragons. What is this? Just because the slave ran away, it would be too much to shoot him directly. She didn't run very fast just now. She definitely couldn't escape. There were so many men around him and he could catch her casually. Why use a gun? Who are you? How dare you use such a tone and talk to me like this? After hearing Scarlet's angry voice, the celestial dragons also showed an extremely dissatisfied look. Anyone can challenge celestial dragons now, right? These untouchables are getting more and more outrageous. Oh, you look pretty good. Are you a noble down here? You are much prettier than this slave. Do you want to be my 13th wife? But suddenly, celestial dragons began to look up and down at Scarlet in front of him, and his eyes began to show an obvious look of vulgarity. Scarlet couldn't help but hug him, and he couldn't help but beat himself up. A tremor. Disgusting. I do not want it. What a joke. She doesn't want to be with a man like this. She is only 14 years old this year. Although she has not thought about her other half, at least she must be a man who stands upright. Definitely not the kind of B***************** D who would shoot a girl in the back. You have to think clearly. I am a celestial dragons. Don't you know what will happen if you disobey me? And the celestial dragons was naturally very dissatisfied after hearing Scarlet's answer. Normally, if he gives an order, he doesn't know how many beautiful women will be his potential wives. Now that he took the initiative to invite him, he is still so ignorant. So what if I resist you? I'm not a citizen here, so I have no reason to listen to you. No wonder you have to know how powerful I am, Saint Castre. It turns out she is from outside, so there is no reason to let you go. Catch her and take her back. Celestial dragons, whose name was subtly similar to Scarlet, also snorted coldly at this time, but he also became more aggressive and shouted directly at his men. It's from outside anyway, so it doesn't matter if you catch him. But Saint Castre and Saint Ivanlos have given orders before and cannot. As long as he doesn't know about it, won't it be fine? Do any of you dare to tell the truth? My subordinates dare not. XN. After hearing the angry voice of their master, the surrounding scoundrels quickly knelt down and exclaimed that they didn't dare anymore. Obviously, even if there are orders from above, these little guys don't dare to commit suicide. After all, they are celestial dragons. Who knows if the so-called ban is true, maybe it is just for viewing. But if you dare to disobey him, you will definitely die miserably in the future, or life will be worse than death. That's it, Ivan. I didn't disobey your lord's order. Now I have caught the accomplice who tried to steal my slave, and I just want to take him back for interrogation. So there is no violation, you know. No. XN. Of course, Castre is no fool. With so many people here, there is no guarantee that some people with long tongues will tell the truth. Then it will be really dangerous. Therefore, he has now changed his words and found an excuse to explain. If you don't believe it, just throw this woman away when you get tired of playing with her in a few days. Although he looked pretty good and it would be a pity to throw it away, his life is definitely more important. Well, to be honest, life is really hard now. Who could have thought that Ivan Ross, who was ostracized by their alliance in the past, would soon become their king? Now almost all the celestial dragons have come to support him, and no one dares to oppose him. Advertisement. And those women, I don't know why they went crazy, actually listened to Charlie's words, took off their hoods, lived like untouchables, and even became Ivan Ross. Loyal fans. Well, it's true that he is a fan. Now they are almost blindly praising Ivan Ross. He said that after seeing his pattern, he realized how stupid and excessive he had been before, and that he had to change his ways in the future. Fart. They are all lies made up to flatter that guy. But even if you know, there is nothing you can do. The situation is stronger than the person. But now, even if he is so proud and arrogant, what can he do? Do you really think that these laws he stipulated can restrain everyone? Look, he will take this woman home now, let her enjoy it for a few days, and then throw her out. Still nothing happened. See what he can do. You. Don't come here. Don't come over. After seeing the actions of the people here, Scarlet and the guards also became nervous. Please give me flowers. Although the guards were already standing in front, trying to stop them, their momentum was obviously lacking. This is the Princess of Dressrosa, Lady Scarlet. Do you want to cause an international dispute? At this time, the captain of the guard had no choice but to bring out his last trump card. Just by looking at the looks of these people, you can tell that it is absolutely impossible to persuade them with words. It can only be revealed. Although Dressrosa will be forced to face a dilemma, no matter what, the safety of the princess is definitely the most important. That, Castre Santo. Don't worry about him. This must be a fake. He actually dares to pretend to be a princess of a country, and his crime will be increased. Wait until I take her back and put her on trial. What? XN. But what no one expected was that Castro would say such outrageous things at this time. In fact, everyone can see that Scarlet has a good temperament and appearance. She is definitely not an ordinary person, she is most likely a princess. And it's the World Summit now, so this is normal. If he does this, he will definitely cause trouble. But why would Castro care about such a thing? Rather, he just wanted to embarrass Ivan on purpose. Just to see his powerless look. Anyway, I am just innocent and unknowing, but it doesn't matter. When the time comes, as the king, he should resolve this matter by himself. Of course, I have to say that this kind of people only think that they are fine. In fact, it is this kind of people who often die the worst. Didn't you hear what I said? Do it. Anyone who doesn't go is betraying me. Shoot them all. Yes, XN. You guys. X. At this time, Castre also gave a stern death order to his subordinates, forcing these people to attack here. Scarlet and others were also shocked and made a gesture of resistance. But the number of people is too small, and the other party accounts for the vast majority. How can it be possible to ensure the safety of the princess? Seeing this group of armored guards rushing towards them, everyone was wary and wanted to fight desperately. I said there seemed to be constant riots here. It turns out you are causing trouble again, Castre. X. But at this moment, a cold voice suddenly came from the side. The two sides who were about to start a fight couldn't help but look over. As for the celestial dragons, when they saw the coming appearance, their faces turned pale with fright, and some even dropped their weapons. As for Castro himself, his legs began to tremble, and he completely lost the momentum he had just now. Lord Ivanlos. Who is this person? This celestial dragons was actually scared like this. And 70 If you can't understand people's words, have your ears cut off, please subscribe. Advertisement. Castre, have you forgotten what I said before? No. How dare I? I never dare to forget Lord Ivan's order. After hearing these words, Castro, who had been so arrogant and domineering before, instantly softened and hurriedly waved his hands in denial. This appearance shocked everyone around him. Especially for those who have not seen the changes in recent times, this change is really dramatic. Seeing the situation here, the spectators who had originally planned to leave also gathered around and looked at this scene dumbfounded. To be honest, before this, only the people above Mariajoy knew Ivan's current identity, and the civilians below did not know yet. So now that I see this scene, I really can't understand it. Castel used to be on an equal footing with Ivan, but now he has become so humble, just like ordinary people seeing celestial dragons. Could it be that that rumor is true? After thinking of this possibility, everyone present couldn't help but look at Ivan in shock, and swallowed subconsciously. Could it be said that Ivan Lost Saint is really going to become the rumored king of the 24 heavenly dragons? OMG. I originally thought this was just a rumor, just for tea after dinner, but I didn't expect it to become true now. Well, after all, everything in this world can be slow, but 8 trigrams is definitely the fastest thing. On the first day 2 months ago, 8 trigrams had actually been passed down in various ways. Open black lens bracket. I swear on my own personality, it is absolutely true, close black lens bracket. I'm only telling you this, please don't tell it outside. Open black lens bracket. You can never tell this matter, you know. Close black lens bracket. Anyway, if something like this is spread, I don't know how many rounds later, everyone below will basically know it. But most people actually regard it as a joke. After all, Everyone has always seen the conflict between Ivanlow's saint and the other celestial dragons. Although they emotionally want to support Ivanlow's saint, the reality is definitely not so ideal. But what they didn't expect was that reality is sometimes even more outrageous than ideals. Then why did you want to rob a civilian girl? This is because she wanted to steal my slave, and also pretended to be a princess from another country, sigh. Ah. Wow. XN. Before Castre finished speaking, he could not continue to say the following content. In an instant, a bloody fountain suddenly spurted out from his right ear, spurting out like a waterfall, shocking everyone present. Castro knelt directly on the ground and used both hands to cover his right ear, but he could not get the same feeling as usual. And when they reacted, everyone saw that something fell to the ground. It's the ears. It's his ears. Do you think we are blind? You just saw them all, and if you dare to deceive us in front of Lord Ivan, you will be punished even more. At this time, a beautiful and graceful woman, who looked like an angel in a white dress but had black wings behind her, was already standing in front of Castro, and then pointed a long sword straight at him. Those golden vertical pupils that are completely different from those of ordinary humans reveal a chill that is so cold that it can freeze people's hearts. It's her again, Miss Albedo. It was Castre Saint who she attacked last time, but at least there was no apparent physical damage that time. But this time, the ears were cut off directly. Do you even want to kill him directly? Wait a minute. Miss Albedo, I know I was wrong. Please forgive me, Ivan Ross Saint. I never dare to do it again. Advertisement. But this time Castre didn't dare to say anything at all. Instead, he kowtowed directly to Albedo in front of him, and did the same to Ivan. This look with snot and tears flowing together, a ferocious look on his face, and the extremely arrogant look just now, it is really unbelievable that he is the same person. Only a dead person can guarantee that he will never dare to do it again, so you. Okay, Albedo, let's get here first. Yes. But at this moment, Albedo, who was about to continue taking action, immediately retracted her sword after hearing the calm voice from the side. Then he dodged and returned to Ivan's side in an instant, then put a smile on his arm with a charming and submissive look on his face. It's the same here, it's completely different from the killing god just now. Miss, are you okay? At this time, Ivan silently walked up to Scarlet and asked her calmly. However, the tone and voice are obviously the same, but the sense of oppression is completely different. No, it's okay. But she has been bleeding just now, so I am very worried. I wonder if I can help her stop the bleeding first. Scarlet was also a little confused, but what she was most concerned about now was the maid beside her who almost became a slave. This girl has been lying on the ground since she was shot just now. She is still breathing heavily and looks very painful. Well, don't worry, Acedes. Got it. After hearing her master call her name, the blue-haired queen on the other side responded with a faint smile. If it was in private, she would definitely tease her master as usual. After all, this person has been watching from the sidelines just now, maybe he is waiting for this hero saving the beauty. He actually asked her to take action to help him chase women. It felt really unpleasant. However, it is the master's order after all. And now that there are so many people here, let him pretend to be handsome for a while. Acedes slowly walked to the maid's side, squatted for a moment, then placed his hands 980 in front of her and behind her, and then. All frozen. The blood stopped flowing out, but the area covered by the ice did not feel very cold, only slightly cool. Then, Acedes took out a pill from his pocket and stuffed it into her mouth. Soon the expression on the maid's face seemed to be relieved. She reluctantly opened her eyes, and then looked at Acedes with some gratitude. The situation suddenly seemed much better. It's okay. Thank you, otherwise, it would have been really dangerous just now. Hearing Acedes' answer, Scarlet couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief, and then thanked Ivan. Ivan also looked at her with interest. He was obviously just a passerby who had nothing to do with her, but now after he saved this person, she still wanted to thank him. The upbringing of a princess is indeed quite good. You're welcome, it's just a little effort. But let me handle the matters here first. Still need to deal with. Oh, it's this celestial dragons. Speaking of which, the name Ivan, isn't it the celestial dragons that the girls were talking about before? It turns out that it's really different. 71 The girlish heart of the princess, please subscribe. Advertisement. Castre, do you have anything else to say? You swore an oath in the name of celestial dragons. Now that you have broken your oath, will you be deprived of your status as a celestial dragons? What? I originally thought that the matter had come to an end, and in the end it was just a warning. Unexpectedly, as soon as Ivan opened his mouth, there was a big thunder. If celestial dragons is stripped of his identity, wouldn't he be just like an ordinary person? It seems that what happened before that he became the king of celestial dragons is true. After thinking of this, the eyes of many noble spectators around him became a little fierce, and some even began to stare directly at Castras fiercely. They are extremely disgusted with this celestial dragons, and it can even be said that they hate it to the core. Even among the celestial dragons, this person is rare and quite disgusting. Bully men and women. From time to time, when you see a beautiful woman, you will want to take it for yourself. Many people have their families destroyed because of this. Although he seems to have only a dozen wives, in fact, the number of women he has harmed over the years is at least 3 digits. If he really becomes an ordinary person now, then they will definitely seek revenge on him as soon as possible. Please, please forgive me. Lord Ivan, I really know I was wrong. I will never do such a thing again. And when I heard this, I saw the hatred in the eyes of the people around me that could hardly be concealed. At this time, Castre even forgot about the pain in his ears for a moment, and quickly kowtowed to Ivan and begged for mercy. In his eyes, he showed unprecedented fear. Before, he really wanted to pretend that he didn't know, and then he could fool Ivan Ross. But who would have thought that they would actually see it with their own eyes? I am so unlucky. ... But in fact, even if Ivan doesn't see it now, his behavior will still be reported. This is absolutely true, and the final punishment will not be much lighter than now. In fact, the character of celestial dragons is like this. It is definitely difficult to say that they completely abide by the law, and they are still new. So recently, many celestial dragons have violated the rules and been fined. But the degree is different. Some were beaten, and some made one mistake and were deducted 10% of the heavenly gold. If they made too many mistakes, the heavenly gold for the entire next year would be deducted, and then distributed to the families who performed well. This naturally touches the interests of those people. If your family can only take half or even 1/10 of someone else's money for a whole year, how will they be treated? So the celestial dragons have really behaved a lot recently, trying not to cause trouble. But even before, there was only one thing they didn't dare to touch. That's the first one: you can't rob civilian girls or go against their will. Otherwise, in serious cases, you will be deprived of your celestial dragon status. This is something that no one wants to face even if they are beaten to death. There is only one Castre who dares to touch such a mine. Really, I don't see your sincerity at all. Is it because I was too talkative to you before, so you can't listen to what I say? No, there is no such thing. Castre wanted to retort, but when he raised his head and looked into Ivan's calm eyes, he couldn't help but feel a feeling as if he had been completely seen through, which made him feel guilty. He glanced away. Really? Then if you can't listen to what I say, there's no need to continue listening. When he heard this, Castre raised his head stupidly and looked at Ivan blankly. Advertisement. But then, a light suddenly flashed across his eyes. I also felt a familiar pain in my left ear again, but this time, I felt more of a freezing pain. Boom. An object fell to the ground, which made him unable to react for a moment. When he saw it, he noticed that it seemed to be an ice cube, and ear. DNPJ. Ah. Hey. After noticing a certain reality, Castre hugged his head with all his strength, and then began to spin around on the ground crazily, with a look of pain covering his entire face. After seeing the ferocious appearance, everyone around them couldn't help but feel a chill, and unprecedented pleasure. This scumbag. Finally the day has come. Long live Saint Ivan Loss. Just stay here for today. If you still dare to violate the rules, I will never forgive you as lightly as this time. 2 years are gone. Isn't this considered frivolous? But the people present only dared to complain a little bit in their hearts, and naturally they didn't dare to say it directly. After all, no one dares to mess with him, and no one dares to mess with the 2 beauties next to him. The person who took action for the second time just now was not the Miss Albedo from before, but Miss Acedes who appeared in the last period of time. She is also extremely powerful and courageous. It is said that Saint Roswaiter's legs were cut off by her. But she is the same now, looking relaxed. It always feels like the weather is a bit cold, so I'd better put on a little more clothes when I go back. Okay, princess, why don't you go back with me, so as not to be in danger? Okay, but, can you please let her go free? Scarlet was also stunned for a moment, and then nodded quickly. At this point in time, if they go back by themselves, they might be attacked by someone else, it's really hard to say. Therefore, it would be much safer to follow him back. But what to do with this slave girl? You can't just throw it away like this, right? If you stay like that, Castre will definitely be swallowed up and don't know what to do. I can't let her go free. After all, she is not free yet and there is no law in this regard. That's it. However, it would be okay if I buy her, let her work here for 3 or 4 years, and then give her her freedom. Really? It's cold. Haha. Why did I lie to you? Do you think I am someone who can lie to you? They all happen to be here, so just buy the remaining slaves. It can be regarded as our fate to meet here. Looking at the man in front of him, he actually showed a faint smile, as warm as spring. Scarlet's face suddenly couldn't help but start to turn red. A girl's heart couldn't help but beat violently. 72 The most powerful right in the world. Please subscribe. Advertisement. Ivan Lost Saint, welcome back. Master Ivan, welcome back, thank you for your hard work. Lord Ivan, please. Ivan, your popularity is really high. After everyone sees you, they all treat you with respect. After seeing several more celestial dragons coming over, they greeted Ivan respectfully and then left silently. Scarlet couldn't help but sigh. Haha, it's nothing. If you could have come here a few months earlier, you would have seen their different behavior. At that time, I was very hated by them, and they even wanted to kill me. Is that like this? When she heard what he said, Scarlet couldn't help but look a little surprised. Starting from the Sabayati archipelago just below, to Mariajoy now. After seeing him, these people passing by looked very respectful. And it seems that the respect comes from the heart, not just on the surface, it really feels very special. But now, he said something completely different. Well, 2 months ago, I was just an ordinary celestial dragons, but it was said that I would inherit the position of the celestial dragon king and become their king, so now they are very afraid of me. It's like this, no wonder. When he heard this, Scar's GD couldn't help but smile. If it is the king, then they will definitely be obedient. But Scarlet didn't notice, but that doesn't mean the guards behind her didn't notice. When they heard this, they all couldn't help but widen their eyes and looked at Ivan stupidly, with obvious admiration and envy in their eyes. King of the Celestial Dragons. This is already equivalent to being the king who controls the entire world. You know, ordinary celestial dragons are much more noble than ordinary kings. If the celestial dragons are offended, the entire kingdom may even be destroyed. King of Celestial Dragons. Never heard of it. I originally heard that above world conquest, the 5 elders of celestial dragons decide matters. But the status of those 5 people is also equal. It can be said that they have divided the world's rights into 5 equal parts. But what now? His rights as a person are superior to those 5 people. It can be said that if he wanted to, he could destroy Dressrosa in an instant. Fortunately, this, Ren, seems to be quite kind-hearted. All the previous slaves were bought by him, and the remaining ones who bought them all came out to say, filial piety, to him. Judging from their proactive attitude, it was almost as if they were afraid that he would not accept it. All I can say is that having rights is really a good thing. Speaking of which, Scarlet, you are the princess of Dressrosa, right? Well, yes, have you been there? No, just a little curious. Then when you come next time, I will take you for a walk, just think of it as thanking you for saving me this time. Scarlet didn't think too much, but smiled openly at Ivan and replied, winking slightly playfully. She was a little nervous when she was down there before, but after getting along with him for a while, she could feel that Ivan was not a very serious person. Many times I still smile back, feeling. In fact, there is not much difference from an ordinary person. Much stronger than those superior celestial dragons. However, when the group of people were far away, they still had a very high attitude and their movements were slow. But when he saw Ivan coming over, he immediately showed a very well-behaved look. His face changed really quickly. Advertisement. Of course, this is normal. When I saw the celestial dragons before, both ears were missing and I didn't dare to resist. Well, I won't bring so many people next time. Quote ? Del. But at this time, Ivan suddenly said something with a smile, which made Scarlet stunned for a moment, but then his face turned unnaturally red, and then he nodded a little shyly. This meaning is already obvious. Just now, she was still uneasy because of what happened before. There were too many things in her mind and she couldn't think clearly at the moment. But with this period of communication and the kindness expressed by the other party, she also felt some subtle thoughts. And when she heard this sentence, she was finally able to understand what the other person was thinking. To be honest, I was a little shy, a little panicked, and at the same time, also a little bit happy. After all, it was he who saved her before and then taught the bad guy a lesson. 0. It's just like those prince saves princess stories in fairy tales. Of course, she is a princess herself, and Ivan is more than a prince, he is directly a king, so it looks more like it. Ahem. Of course, I haven't even written about this kind of thing yet, so I can't think about it so much. The master really showed his flaws. Indeed, I said, why are you being so cruel to that trash? It's really just to pick up girls. It's just that some people just can't stand the good atmosphere of others. The two beauties standing on both sides of Ivan also began to tease and complain about him. As soon as these words came out, the atmosphere naturally became more awkward. Scarlett's face was full of embarrassment, and she wanted to pretend not to understand, but her eyes couldn't help but blink in Ivan's direction. 0. Obviously, she cares about his opinion, whether she really thinks so. I am doing it for the sake of harmony between countries. I have to be tougher to ensure her safety. Then do you dare to say that you have no idea at all? Yes, but this does not conflict with my previous thoughts. Quote, what I said makes sense. Shit, you just want to pick up girls. Even Scarlett couldn't help but roll her eyes at Ivan slightly unhappily, but after seeing his natural expression, she suddenly couldn't help laughing. PFF'd. You are really a carefree person. Of course, isn't that what men pursue? Haha, this excuse is really convincing. Scarlett laughed and taunted Ivan. But for some reason, she felt a lot more at ease when she saw that he was not as perfect as she imagined and that he was straightforward. Really, it has nothing to do with Prince Charming, or anything like that. Of course, I'll take you for a nice walk during this time. It's boring anyway. Aren't you going to drive the World Summit? What the hell, women are not as important as women in meetings. 73 No more vacant throne. Please subscribe. Advertisement. Scarlett, I heard that you met the celestial dragons. And you even confronted him. Are you okay? Father, don't be so anxious. Am I fine? Seeing the excited middle-aged man in front of her, Scarlett complained with a headache. Suddenly he ran over to her excitedly and asked her what she thought it was. It turned out to be because of what happened yesterday. A whole day has passed. If there was really a problem, she would have been in danger long ago. However, celestial dragons are really extremely dangerous. If you encounter them, try to avoid them. I know you have a strong sense of justice, but facing celestial dragons directly will be very detrimental to us. Father, you look different now than usual. Don't you always teach me about justice? This is naturally the case for me, but you are a girl and not a king, so there is no need to be so insistent. HMPH. I'm not. 850. Whatever happens to girls, I can still be the queen. Anyway, I won't give in. Alas, I really don't know if my daughter's character is a good thing or a bad thing. Looking at the stubborn-looking girl in front of him, King Rikudol III couldn't help but sigh. He had heard what happened yesterday. Originally, he should have said it yesterday, but he was chatting with some old friends, the king, yesterday and discussed it for a long time, both private and state affairs. So he didn't know about it until this morning, when one of his subordinates hurriedly told him, and he was almost scared to death. He knows best what kind of virtue celestial dragons are. Even if that kind of person is really crazy, it is very possible to kidnap her directly. And we did encounter this kind of thing yesterday, but we were saved by someone. If something bad happens to his daughter, he will live in the shadows for the rest of his life. Speaking of which, who is the person who saved you? Quote. Father, haven't you heard? Huh, I heard that it seems to be a celestial dragons, right? But I didn't know much about it at the time. Well, it's celestial dragons, but he's very nice and interesting. We talked a lot yesterday. When he said this, Scarlett's face couldn't help but reveal a bright smile, with a hint of red. After returning to Mariajoy yesterday, she did not go directly back to the accommodation arranged here. Instead, she followed Ivan to his house and played for a while. It's actually quite surprising. Although it is not an ordinary home, there are many maids and the decoration is quite exquisite, which is much better than her home. But I always feel that compared to the identity of celestial dragons, it seems quite ordinary. However, the people inside are living a good life. At least everyone has a plump complexion and does not have the painful look of those slaves. So after seeing that the slaves, including the maid, were assigned to various jobs, she felt at ease. Of course, her attitude made King Riku frown. Scarlett, you better stop running around and follow me to avoid getting into trouble. But, obey, we are here for business this time, don't think too much about leisure things. Quote. I see. Hearing what her father said, Scarlett could only nod, but there was an obviously unhappy look on her face. There is no way, for her who usually has few friends, it is rare to meet young people who can communicate freely, and they are also physical. All I can say is that some things may really be destined to each other. Seeing his daughter's answer, King Riku also sighed slightly. As someone who has experienced it, of course he can see the subtle changes in his daughter. Advertisement. In the past, she would not have hesitated in this regard. The reason why I went there yesterday was actually not to play, but to refer to the local customs and make some comparisons to experience it personally. But when she just said, him, Neon Ta, men and women can be distinguished, her expression really looked like that of a girl who was in love for the first time, which was really not good. If it were an ordinary person, it would actually be fine. He himself does not have high requirements for his daughter's other half, as long as he is a good person and can treat her well. But the problem is, the existence of celestial dragons is really too dangerous. Although I don't know what the other party's intentions were when he went to save Scarlet, it's possible that he had ulterior motives. Even if he is really fine, there is no guarantee that other celestial dragons will not cause trouble for them. And after staying with existences like celestial dragons for a long time, he was really worried that Scarlet would become like that. That is something he is absolutely unwilling to accept. Therefore, it is better to stop thinking about it as soon as possible. It's a pity that what he doesn't know is that there is something called destiny. This kind of thing is like an invisible rope. Once it is connected inadvertently, it will be difficult to get rid of it for the rest of your life. Hey, King Riku, you brought your daughter here today, ha ha ha. Yeah, I just hope she doesn't wander around and get into trouble. What are you talking about, father? I have always been well behaved, okay. After hearing what her father said to the king, who was tall and mighty and looked like a boxer, Scarlet couldn't help but curled her lips and complained. If you had been good, something so dangerous wouldn't have happened yesterday. I just do it because I'm good. R.O. Ah ha 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 ha. Old friend, it seems that every family has a sutra that is difficult to recite. Seeing that his always serious old friend looked like a somewhat helpless old father when facing his daughter, the king next to him also laughed. There were also several kings around, who also showed knowing smiles. They still have a good impression of King Riku. Because of the raging pirates, there are often wars between countries, so they are often in crisis. But King Riku has always been trying to help them and try to get their country out of the possibility of all wars as soon as possible. He is famous around the world as the king without war. What? You seem to dislike me. Huh. Hey, father, why is that seat empty? Scarlet complained in a low voice with some dissatisfaction, but when she raised her head and looked at the huge throne above, she couldn't help but ask curiously. The World Summit has not officially started yet, but of course she can be here. But it was too boring here. They only talked about some political affairs, which she didn't want to know at all. Still with Ivan. Oh, forget it, let's not think about it so much. Oh, that is a symbol of peace, no one can sit on it, huh. But just when he was about to explain, King Riku suddenly widened his eyes and stared at it. Many kings present gradually began to notice the above situation, their eyes widened, and they showed angry expressions. What a joke. Why is someone sitting on it? Didn't you say that no one can sit down? Isn't this Ivan? However, when Scarlet saw the face of the figure above, she couldn't help being dumbfounded. Why did he sit on it directly? Advertisement 74. I am the Dragon King, Ivan Lo's Astoria, please subscribe. Advertisement. Are you kidding me? That's not a place where you can sit around. Come down quickly. Who is this person? Didn't anyone teach him? It's going to be a big deal now. For the kings present, the scene in front of them must be unimaginable. Above is a huge throne, with 20 differentiated weapons placed in front of it, inserted into the ground. It is called the vacant throne, and it represents the oath to uphold the equality between countries in the past and never give rise to dictatorship. The 20 weapons guarding the throne are the oaths made by the first 20 people, who created this world 800 years ago. That location is the center of the world, a symbol of peace that no one can touch. Just as the pinnacle of world power is also held by the 5 elders, the highest ranking members of the celestial dragons, there is no unique king in this world. So if someone is really qualified to sit there at 24, he will become the king of the world. Perhaps, among the many kings present, most of them may have really thought about sitting on Yunuka. After all, the allure of power is too great. Who wouldn't want to feel that feeling? But obviously, if someone who is not qualified takes the seat, it will only set themselves on fire, or even burn down the entire country. Therefore, no one has sat on it so far. Someone once wanted to go up, but was stopped by force, and eventually the country died soon after. There may be many reasons, but the most likely reason is probably because you want to get your hands on things that you shouldn't touch. But, right now, this young man, who looked to be in his early 20s, actually sat on it as if it was a matter of course. This is my seat. Is there anything I can't do? But at this time, an even more deadly sentence suddenly came out of this young man's mouth. This taken for granted attitude naturally made people feel that something was wrong. At this time, there were already 2 groups of people wearing tight armor walking up from both sides neatly. These are the guards of this Pangu city. Each of them carries a fierce aura, which is much stronger than ordinary guards. Obviously, if this man dares to do this, he will definitely suffer disaster later. But after waiting for a while, the kings who were waiting for this group of people to punish the man suddenly couldn't help but widen their eyes and were completely dumbfounded. Because after the 2 rows of guards went up, the soldiers did not point their weapons at the man. Instead, They knelt down on one knee in unison, and then knocked the bottom of the weapons on the ground in unison. Lord Ivan, the meeting is about to begin. Well, let's wait for instructions. Yes. XN. XN. What's going on? Seeing this group of guards, not only did they not arrest him, but they actually obeyed his orders, turned around, and stood quietly beside him, as if they were protecting him. Everyone present all cleared. Who are you? What do you want to do? At this time, King Liku was the first to speak directly. He is relatively close to here, and he was just explaining the meaning of this throne to his daughter, but... Advertisement. I was slapped in the face instantly. Even a good-tempered king like him is a bit stuck at this moment. Of course, there are actually many. It would be better to say that most kings actually have the same idea. Many of us here are old acquaintances, and some have been in power since they were children. But this young man had never been seen before, and he suddenly appeared. Even the guards here seemed to respect him very much, which really shocked them. Don't you know me? Anyway, I saved your daughter yesterday. Ah, duh. But when he heard this, King Riku couldn't help being a little dumbfounded. Then, like everyone else, he looked at Scarlet standing next to him, making this usually bold little princess. At this time, my body couldn't help but stiffen. Is he the celestial dragons who saved you yesterday? King Liku finally reacted at this time, and then looked at his daughter with a troubled expression, and the other party nodded awkwardly. And quietly looked at the man above him, and then there was a little complaint in his eyes. Really? Why should you tell her? It's very embarrassing. Okay. Well, yes, father. Quote. XN. But this sentence is more exciting to other people. Are they actually celestial dragons? No wonder these guards listen to him so much. But there is a problem. You know, the guards here usually don't even look like celestial dragons. If any celestial dragons come here to cause trouble, they may even be thrown out. But now this person is arrogantly breaking the rules here, but he is not arrested. It is really hard to understand. But, even celestial dragons cannot sit in this position. Do you know what this means? 747. At this time, a middle-aged man with long wavy hair and a beard said seriously. As the king of Alabasta, although he is still relatively young, his words are already quite powerful. Among the kings present, he is one of the few who has the right to speak. I know, but aren't you curious about the reason why this position was set in the first place? A vacant throne would appear for no reason. XN. After hearing the young man's words, the scene fell into silence for a moment, and most people began to think. Indeed, they had doubts before. Even if you want to express peace, setting up a throne so high up really seems like you are looking down at the kings below. This position is reserved for the king of celestial dragons. My name is Ivanlos Astoria, and I am the second heavenly dragon king after the first heavenly dragon king Yim 800 years ago. Just yesterday, already officially inherited. What? XN. King of celestial dragons. Is there still a king in celestial dragons? No, the problem is, didn't this seat originally symbolize peace, and was left vacant on purpose? 75 elders knelt down. Please subscribe. Advertisement. I have to say that someone's words were really like a depth bomb, blowing up the peaceful world that was originally immersed in the seabed in an instant. No, it's impossible. Where did the king of the celestial dragons come from? Aren't the celestial dragons itself composed of 20 families called creators? This is a symbol of peace. We celestial dragons had the first king at the beginning, and those 20 weapons were also there to protect her. Although your Nefertiti family refused to move in 800 years ago, Mariajoy and becoming celestial dragons, but you can't say that you've even forgotten about it, right? Seeing that the other party directly said this kind of thing, many people present looked at the person who had just spoken, King Cobra of Alabasta, which made him a little silent. But after a while, he nodded. Yes, there is indeed such a history written in our family's records. The 20 royal families in the past became the saviors of the world, but at the same time, they also assisted another person to become a real Wong. That person is actually the savior who truly saved the world. However, she should have disappeared a long time ago. Moreover, your surname is one of the 20 families, Aster. Leah is not the king's surname. Cobra frowned, and then revealed the little-known secret. What you say from other people's mouths may be regarded as nonsense. But as the king of Alabasta, he does have very high credibility. Because the ancestors of their family refused to become celestial dragons, the rumor has been spread to this day. According to legend, a total of 20 families saved the world that year. The Nefertiti family was the only one who refused to move to the holy city of Mariajoy. So it's not surprising that he knows something special, and there's no need for him to lie. Moreover, looking at the postures of the guards around him, it didn't look like he was lying at all. If there really was a great man who made great contributions in the past world, he would indeed be revered as a king. However, after the last few words were spoken, the eyes of the people around him began to become a little strange, and they looked at Ivan with complicated expressions. Indeed, the surnames of the celestial dragons are all well known, and you can look them up if you want. The Astoria family is also one of the 20 inches descendants of gods, surnames that have been passed down to this day. But the real king should indeed have this last name. Can he become a king like this? Let us answer this question. But at this moment, a calm but energetic voice came from the front door. Advertisement. And when everyone saw the 5 majestic hockey figures, their pupils couldn't help but shrink instantly. 5 elders. The original pinnacle of power in the world was also the patriarch of the 5 first-class celestial dragons families. Seeing them coming here, some of the people who originally had a melon-eating mentality began to stand in awe. Obviously, this is definitely not a farce, but a very serious matter. The first heavenly dragon King Sama has not disappeared, but has been silently supporting the operation of the world behind the scenes. Now there needs to be a new heir as her descendant, and it does not necessarily need to be her. As long as one of his own tribe is one of the celestial dragons. In other words, the Astoria family will be the royal family among the celestial dragons from now on. Everyone present was a little confused when they heard the 2 5 elders speaking plausibly. I was originally wondering if there would be any reversal of the situation when I saw them coming. But what's the result? Not at all, they are here to support him. And next, the 5 of them did something that shocked everyone even more. The 5 of them all stood levelly under the steps of the throne, then knelt down on one knee at the same time and lowered their heads respectfully. So, Lord Ivan will be our only king. What? Aren't they dreaming now? 5 elders actually knelt down. Looking at the 5 celestial dragons in front of them who did not waver at all and knelt firmly on one knee under the throne, many people present felt their mouths were dry and couldn't help but subconsciously swallowed a mouthful of saliva. Weird things happen every year, especially this year. What happened on this day is probably enough to shock them for the rest of their lives. Although he had revealed his identity before, when they saw it now, they still couldn't help but feel that it was too magical. You, aren't you afraid of creating a dictatorial tyrant like this? The kingdom that was supposed to be equal, has now become a world dominated by him, the Dragon King. Aren't you worried about the great changes in the world structure? But at this time, Cobra also shouted excitedly, very impassioned. When the people around heard it, they couldn't help but trembled, and their eyes began to become stern. I will try to make a better recommendation today, so I divided it into more chapters and made one chapter about 1,600 words. I will restore it to more than 2,000 words tomorrow. I support it. But today it will definitely exceed 20,000 words. 76 wiped off the map. Just like Ohara, please subscribe. Advertisement. Yes, in the past many years, the original pattern has been maintained. If it suddenly changes, there will definitely be someone with intentions who will take the opportunity to cause trouble. Yes, all countries are equal. Are you celestial dragons, really superior to us? I have to say that after someone took the lead, many people began to speak tougher and even became more explicit. But this kind of thinking is actually quite normal. After all, celestial dragons had only been dominating the local area before, collecting some money every year, but they did not interfere in the country's internal affairs. But now, they are now almost directly announcing that all countries are under their control. Such an arrogant attitude is really unbearable. I don't think so. I think people are probably born equal. But Ivan suddenly said something like this, which made people feel a little surprised. What he said seemed different from what he did, right? Del. But at this moment, everyone present felt an inexplicable sense of oppression coming towards them, making their heads feel empty instantly, and their whole bodies felt an extremely cold chill, which instantly enveloped their whole bodies, up and down. When they looked upward, they all saw a pair of eyes that seemed calm but were extremely cold. However, the identities, powers, and rights that people possess are unequal. And I do have the right to dominate you. Not only me, but also the former 5 elders and the world conqueror all have such rights. Don't you know? So, there has been no change at all from before to now. Quote. Good guy, it's so hard to say directly. But this sentence does make sense, whether it is one person or 5 people. In fact, they all have the right to change the world with just one sentence. Thinking of this, many kings, as well as the princes and princesses, couldn't help but look a little depressed. I thought that as the most important royal family in a country, I was all powerful in my country and could control the life and death of many people at will, but now here, I am at the mercy of others. This huge gap is really unacceptable. However, in the past, at least 5 people decided, and their decisions would not be influenced by one person. Now, they all take orders from you. I doubt that if you make a wrong choice, the world will fall into chaos, into crisis. But at this time, King Liku, who had been silent for a long time, spoke again. Although Scarlet was a little confused and looked embarrassed, as a king, he still needed to say some things. Advertisement. Yes, if it is dominated by a militant like me, the world will probably be in chaos soon, ha ha ha. XN. You were so embarrassed to say it. Hearing the middle-aged man next to King Liku laughing, everyone present could not help but complain silently in their hearts. But precisely because it was he, the King of War, who said it, it seemed even more convincing. His country has been in war, but he has not compromised because of his warlike nature. Instead, he has been destroyed and reborn in the war, and I am afraid he will continue to fight in the future. But he also has various difficulties and reasons. He can only say that if outsiders don't understand, they can't say anything. And now, everyone feels that his words are very reasonable. Asterisk 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 asterisk. If this so-called Dragon King is really a militant, then so many countries in the world will probably suffer. The big countries are exhausted, and the small countries may even be wiped out directly. In this case, what kind of peace will there be? Oh, then don't worry. Most of the things are left to the 5 elders to decide. I don't care about things myself and I don't bother to take care of them. Quote. XN. Then what is the role of being this king? When they heard this, everyone suddenly felt that the pressure on their bodies seemed to be reduced a lot in an instant. The heavy atmosphere just now seemed to have disappeared directly. While they relaxed for a moment, they couldn't help but feel in their hearts. He complained secretly. Of course, if that's the case, that's indeed a good thing. Although some people may be dissatisfied with the various policies of the 5 elders, on the whole, they are still beneficial to most countries. I am not a person who likes trouble, nor do I like war, but I will not interfere in your own internal affairs. Whether you advocate peace or hope for war, that is your business. Instead, I will increase my support for some disaster victims. Funding, but. When Ivan said the last word, he paused for a while and did not continue. And just when everyone was holding their breath, waiting for his next words, he suddenly disappeared. Then he instantly appeared in the middle of the table where all the kings were meeting. If someone wants to disobey the world and pursue something they shouldn't know, I will ruthlessly wipe their country off the map, just like Ohara. 77 The First Order of the Dragon King. Please subscribe. Advertisement. The air solidified again. There was no sound at this time in the huge World Summit living room. I'm afraid even if a small needle falls on the ground, it will be transmitted to their ears. However, those powerful people who were usually very energetic and capable of dominating a country now did not even dare to express their anger loudly, but could not help but take a breath of cold air. So fast. They didn't realize how he got to them at all. There were also many guards on the periphery of the field, and some kings were even strong men themselves. But just now, no one among them saw how Ivan moved, not even the trajectory of his movements. Just now, they thought that the feeling of oppression came from the 5 elders or some other powerful people. But now, in close contact, they can clearly feel that that momentum truly comes from the young man in front of them. Not only is his identity special, is his own strength also so powerful. Among the princes and nobles present, Scarlet, the only one who knew Ivan, was in a very complicated mood. Ivan is sitting on the table now, with his left foot placed horizontally in front of him, his right foot placed vertically, and his right hand resting on it. He is sitting casually, but his eyes are very sharp. From the side she looked over and felt a strong pressure. There is a big difference between him and him yesterday. No, to be precise, he is very different from the person he was later. In fact, he is quite similar to the person he was when we first met. It turns out that he, who seems very casual, also has a very serious and persistent side. Actually, if possible, I don't really want to become the so-called Dragon King. Ivan said this to her yesterday. When he said this, Ivan said it with a smile. It originally sounded like a joke, or a bit of a show-off Versailles. But now it seems that maybe, that is really his voice. Looking at his serious face, Scarlet did not feel fearful like others, but instead felt a little distressed for him. Obviously he himself is a person who really doesn't like to deal with such things, but now he has to take on some complicated responsibilities. In the eyes of others, perhaps this is a very coveted identity. But the things that need to be done will put a lot of pressure on people. He himself is actually a very kind person, she has observed it since yesterday. She asked the maids, and then she found out that many of those people were almost slaves and were bought by Ivan. Advertisement. But he did not abuse them like other celestial dragons. Instead, he very gently gave them work, life, and rights as human beings. People are probably born equal. This sentence is probably what he really thinks in his heart. But he also has to make some difficult choices for some special unknown things. For example, destroy Ohara. Originally, my father was extremely shocked by this incident. After all, Ohara itself is an island of scholars and has no political leanings. But the ending was extremely cruel, without any room for negotiation, and was completely submerged in the sea. It can only be said that while you have gained something, you may indeed have to bear some responsibility. Of course, outsiders don't know this kind of thing, and they won't think so. In fact, Ivan herself is not under as much pressure as she thought, but she is just a little emotional. 011205524 Philu 101,261,271. It is indeed very unexpected to get this position inexplicably. But that doesn't mean that just by sitting in this position, you can do whatever you want. If necessary, he may be hunted down some characters he once liked. He was just an ordinary homebody, and he never thought about doing such great things. Of course, at this point, he will not be merciful. There are only a few real threats to his existence, and they don't actually require too much psychological burden. Of course, in fact, you don't need to worry too much. Just keep it the same as before. I usually don't care about boring things. I also hope that the world can be as peaceful as possible, so that most people's lives can be changed. Okay, so in terms of improving people's lives, if necessary, our world conquest will also allocate more funds. Therefore, at this time, he continued to explain again very simply, and his tone was much more easygoing. Whips and sugar should be used together. Don't scare them blindly. You should give some sweetness appropriately, so as to make them obedient. This kind of thing is actually the same no matter which world or industry we are in. Also, I can't stand the existence of slaves. Therefore, from now on, all slaves will be forcibly abolished and replaced by a labor contract system. We are now a civilized society. Stop engaging in barbaric things. Only then will the world progress. I have regulations here. This is the first order I have issued as the Heavenly Dragon King. Quote, XX*. This seems a little different from what they imagined. I originally thought there would be chaos in the world, but now. This seems to be a pretty good thing. 78 Those who are disobedient will be cut off. Please subscribe. Advertisement. Contract workers are not allowed to be forced to work for more than 8 hours in a row. They must be provided with enough food and as clean a place as possible, and they are absolutely not allowed to kill contract workers because of their emotions. These are not bad designs. Yes, although the conditions and treatment are indeed worse than those of regular employees, at least the safety of life is guaranteed and no harm is done. Indeed, and being able to regain freedom after the time is up is something that former slaves could not imagine. Looking at the distributed regulatory documents in front of them, many kings present could not help but make various comments and expressed some emotions. It is really unimaginable that such a friendly law was thought up by celestial dragons. Originally, they were worried about whether there would be any private goods in these regulations, such as asking their country to give up some of its rights. But after taking a closer look, I found that there was nothing wrong with it. It was really some regulations that were changed specifically for slaves. Quote. Dragon King, I have doubts. But at this time, Cobra asked with some confusion, and asked Ivan, who was already sitting next to him, and continued to act cool. What's wrong, King Alabasta? Since you have made such a big change for your efforts, why not just ban the sale of Nukong? He had been a little confused about this question since just now. This so-called contract labor actually means changing the identity and title of slaves, and their treatment has been improved a lot, but it seems that there is no strict prohibition on the sale of slaves. Oh, now it should be said that it is compulsory leasing of contract labor. If he is willing to directly issue an order saying that it is mandatory not to buy or sell, it should reduce the existence of a lot of contract labor. However, as soon as he said these words, many kings immediately smiled and shook their heads, including King Liku and Elizabeth II. Alabasta is a rich country. Although it is mostly located in sandy land, it has a lot of alluvial gold and various mineral resources. It has a large territory and is quite powerful. And because their governance is relatively strict, there are very few slaves. In addition, Cobra is actually still very young. He just became king not long ago, and it is even his first time to come to World Summit, so in this regard no experience. In this matter, his handling was really not as good as this Dragon King. If it can be completely eradicated by banning it, I would also like to ban it. However, it is prohibited on the surface, but secretly it will only make the trade more rampant and crazy, and if the number is not enough, they will replace individual slaves. Serious exploitation that cannot be exposed. Do you think this is a good thing? Quote. Advertisement. After hearing these words, not only Cobra, but also the other kings couldn't help but look at Ivan in a different light. When he used the tough but indifferent attitude to coerce them before, to be honest, they were quite unhappy. After all, he is still the king of a country, and he still has this dignity. If you, a boy, were not from a better background, you would not be qualified to compare with kings like them who have experienced great storms. However, after hearing these words, they all really changed their minds. These remarks indeed have a certain depth of insight. For the reform of some things, it is impossible to completely eradicate it directly, it can only be done step by step. To be honest, this heavenly dragon king is quite smart and has a really good heart. Those that can join the world's franchised countries are basically relatively stable kingdoms. And although their kings may have their own interests, most of them actually have the idea of serving the country and the people. In fact, most car owners don't really like the existence of slaves. Dragon King. These regulations are indeed a good thing, but can you guarantee that the celestial dragons can implement them? You must know that the ones who treat slaves the most cruelly and have the greatest demand are you celestial dragons. Quote. 543 Sure enough, upon hearing King Liku's words, most people's eyes turned to Ivan again. Indeed, the existence of slaves itself is one of the places with the most trade, but it is this seemingly prosperous Sabayati archipelago that Mariajoy describes below. This is the consequence of rights. You can rest assured that I have severely punished the celestial dragons who treated slaves maliciously and disobeyed me. And you can ask your daughter, King Dressrosa, yesterday I gave the ears of a celestial dragons who abused slaves. Cut down. Quote. XN. Hiss. This is too exaggerated. Are those celestial dragons who once wreaked havoc being treated like this? It's so annoying. Pinyin is not allowed to be used now, so many chapters have been harmonized. I don't know whether it has been harmonized 4 or 5 times in the first chapter. Alas, I feel tired. And chapter 74 has also been harmonized. I'm so depressed. What you couldn't see before can now be seen. 79 I took your daughter away, please subscribe. Advertisement. Is that so, Scarlet? Yes, Father. Ivan. Well, celestial dragons saved me yesterday. That celestial dragons shot a slave through the body with a gun. When I went to save her, he happened to be passing by, saved me, and then asked 2 subordinates to cut off the ears of the celestial dragons. Moreover, celestial dragons also has special rules that prohibit many things that harm slaves. Many of them are stipulated by himself. After hearing her father's question, Scarlet quickly explained, looking a little nervous. Well, that's right, after all, so many kings are staring at her. But the more he talked about it, the more excited Scarlet became. To be honest, she really felt a little angry. Although I know that Ivan's previous behavior may not be easy to like, and using a tough attitude to convince people will indeed cause some dissatisfaction. But Ivan is really concerned about slaves. After he officially became the Heavenly Dragon King, he immediately promulgated a bill to modify the status of slaves, which shows that he really doesn't like this. But now these kings, including his own father, are also questioning him, wondering if he has ulterior motives or something. It really made her unhappy. That's right. Dragon King, thank you for your help. When King Liku heard this, he thanked Ivan with a somewhat complicated expression, but his tone and eyes were indeed quite sincere. When he learned that it was this man who saved his daughter, he had a very complicated mood. After all, he really didn't want his daughter to have anything to do with existence like celestial dragons. If you encounter danger, or if you are assimilated or something, it would feel really bad. But now, the performance of this heavenly dragon king really made him feel a little amazing. It's not just about identity. He is excellent in every aspect. Ability, strength, etc. are also quite outstanding, very macroscopic. In fact, it wasn't just them, even the 5 elders sitting not far behind had a slight smile on their faces at this time. Originally, they thought that Ivan would just take up the position casually. After all, this position was forcibly handed over by Lord Im, and they had no choice. But Ivan's performance really exceeded their expectations. None of these kings had any thoughts of resistance, but instead looked at him with admiration. This is definitely not a simple matter. You know, most of the people who are doing this are old fools, and politics is something they are very good at. In the end, Ivan noticed it and made the old politician speechless. Advertisement. It's a pity that he is only serious about slaves and doesn't care about other things. Otherwise, maybe he can really make this world a lot more peaceful. It's okay, it's just a little effort, and I'm only helping you because your daughter is cute. Woo. XN. But at this time, Ivan said something, which made the expressions on the faces of the 5 elders who were still smiling suddenly froze. He behaved quite well before, being majestic when he was majestic and kind when he was kind. As a king, his performance is quite good. But this somewhat glib character is not what a king should have, and he is saying it on this occasion. However, as soon as these words came out, it really made the atmosphere at the scene relax again. Speaking of which, my matters are almost finished. You can continue to talk next. But at this time, Ivan suddenly said something, then stood up directly, as if ready to leave. Heavenly Dragon King, won't you continue the meeting? King Liku also asked curiously. Although the atmosphere was a bit weird, they were really talking about some serious content just now, including financial subsidies. So at this World Summit, many countries were snickering, and their impression of Ivan was much better than at the beginning. And importantly, after that, Ivan did not show a superior attitude, but felt similar to them, which made them relax a lot. The general meaning is that as long as you don't touch the bottom line, your life will be the same as before, or even better. It doesn't matter. Anyway, I only care about a few things that I am responsible for and care about, and the rest will be the same as before. But I took your daughter away. Quote. I'm huge. Of course it's you. You have nothing to do if you stay here in Danuojiao, right? Let's go. Looking at the stunned Scarlet, Ivan also smiled lightly, then directly in front of everyone, he took Scarlet's little hand, and then walked out. Only King Liku with a gloomy face was left, as well as a group of kings with mocking looks on their faces. It seems that this heavenly dragon king is indeed a young man. He may be more interested in beauties than Agami. Of course, there is also envy and regret. If I had known earlier, they would have tried to connect their daughter with such an uncle. Hey, the first chapter is still in harmony. Please help me with the review. It's just opinion problem, and I've been harmonizing it for 5 hours. 80 Princesses First Kiss, please subscribe. Advertisement. Hey, tell me, why did you pull me out directly? It's so embarrassing. After walking a distance, walking out of Pangu City, and arriving at a secluded grassland where no one dared to follow or eavesdrop, Scarlet couldn't help but complain to Ivan beside him, and then waved his little fist viciously, as if threatening to hit him. Of course, not to mention that even if this little hand is knocked down, it will probably only be soft and comfortable. Even just looking at the blush on her face, you know that her words are not convincing. They are not holding hands now, but when he came out just now, when he first left Pangu City, he let everyone see it. Originally, she had tried to break away many times, but no matter what, Ivan walked a little fast at first, so she had to struggle while walking quickly. Naturally, there was no resistance. Of course, this was not intentional by Ivan, it was just because the height difference between the two was too big and their steps were 983 different, so there was this difference. But later on, even if Ivan slowed down and followed her rhythm, she didn't try to break free. He just blushed, pressed his head against his head, and didn't say a word. Just let the people on both sides outside look at them, walk over silently, and then break away after walking a little further. If you put on a wedding dress, it might look a bit like a wedding scene to others. It's nothing, right? You have nothing to do anyway, right? Take advantage of this time and have some fun here. That's not the problem. It's you doing it in front of so many people. After hearing Ivan's teasing tone, Scarlet yelled like a kitten whose tail was stepped on. But as she spoke further back, her voice became smaller and smaller, almost inaudible. In fact it is. No matter how generous she appears, she is a girl after all, and a princess, so naturally she is still very conservative. Not to mention, in front of so many people, being held by a man and walking out slowly. She simply didn't want to live. So, do you want to hold me in private? Seeing her shy and cute look, Ivan smiled and stretched out his hand again, and then directly took her little hand in his hand again, which also made Scarlet's little face turn red again. Because, this time he held hands directly. No matter how dull a girl is, she will find out what the other person is thinking at this time. HMPH. Who wants to hold hands in private? Big Salang, we only met the next day, but you actually do such a thing, you bad guy. Advertisement. Of course, such a kind and lovely girl, if I don't express my intention earlier and declare my sovereignty, who knows whether she will be snatched away by another man. Can you, please don't say it so directly. Idiot. So now she could only turn away her red face and complain angrily. But after saying this, the corners of Scarlet's cheek that was far away from Ivan turned up slightly, and she seemed to have an indescribable sense of happiness. A girl who falls in love for the first time will naturally not think too much. This kind of thing is like an electric shock to her. Although she is very shy, she is not annoying. What's more, she knew that Ivan was indeed a very good boy, and she was very moved by him. Well, actually, how could Ivan not think so? Even Ren and the others didn't come today. Ivan asked them to stay at home or go out to play instead of coming to World Summit. Otherwise, it would be better to endure it, but according to the tempers of Albedo and Acids, the entire Pangu city might have to be demolished. Moreover, Ivan really wanted to spend some time alone with Scarlet. To be honest, in the original work, he liked her mother more than the Rebecca who cried often. As a princess, she doesn't just act coquettishly and willfully. When she meets someone she likes, she is willing to abandon her former wealthy life, and ultimately dies trying to find food for her daughter. Although her final fate is tragic, she is indeed a person who attaches great importance to feelings. Ivan likes this kind of girl very much, she dares to love and hate, and she is also very strong inside. Therefore, when he saw her going directly to face the celestial dragons for a slave girl yesterday, he made up his mind to capture her. Well, no matter what, if you like a girl, just be proactive with her, there's nothing wrong with her, right? I just like to be direct, so, yesterday, when I saw you risking your life to protect others, I only had eyes for you. Quote. What is it? When you were protecting me, I only had you in my eyes. Scarlet, who used her last bit of courage as a girl to say this, her eyes became a little blurry at this time, and followed Ivan as they looked at each other, and the two of them could not help but slowly get closer. Until Ivan suddenly pressed his face to the soft and fragrant lips, the time between the two of them stopped for an instant. In the world, only each other is left. 81 The Vixen Princess is here. Please subscribe. Advertisement. Lord Ivan hasn't come back yet. It's already evening. Are all those kings just doing it? It's been so long and it's not over yet. You've asked this question many times. I'm here too. You ask me this, but I don't know. But I'm really worried. There's been no news. Isn't it because they are entangled by those kings? Just kill them all and then send the puppets to forget about it. Calm down, my lord, you are not Miss Albedo. But, I really can't help it. Quote. XN. It's better to be quieter, it's so noisy. Seeing this dignified, beautiful, elegant, and plump woman who seemed to be going crazy and kept shouting, the girls next to her couldn't help but sigh. Since just now, this big-mouthed gorilla, oh no, it's the beautiful Miss Momo, has been barking nonstop. Well, this is very normal. Normally, she doesn't want to leave Lord Ivan for a moment, and even wants to follow him when he goes to bed, showers and goes to the toilet if possible. But now Master Ivan has not come back and has been away for more than half a day, which naturally makes her a little anxious. Miss Albedo, I don't think there is any need to be so nervous. I think Lord Ivan has already left. Huh, how do you know? But at this time, a young girl holding a book and slowly flipping through it said something calmly, causing Albedo to recover immediately and hurriedly asked. Does she have any top secret information? I think Mr. Ivan couldn't bear to sit there all day talking about national affairs. He probably went to find a cute girl a long time ago. XN. It seems, inexplicably, very reasonable. Although it was only said by an 8-year-old girl, it suddenly made people feel enlightened. But, if that was the case, he should have come back long ago. Although she had to admit that this situation was more likely, Albedo still didn't want to believe it. If you were looking for a girl, wouldn't it be nice to come back when there are so many at home? Is it possible that there must be a woman outside, right? Isn't there a saying that domestic flowers are not as fragrant as wild flowers? Impossible. Doesn't Sir Ivan only know us? Where are the women? This is of course impossible. Advertisement. Hearing the teasing chuckle from the beautiful butterfly-like girl beside her, Albedo immediately retorted loudly. She follows Master Ivan all day long, where can he? Well, it seems really. Miss Chiarli, aren't there a few of her best friends? And there seemed to be one yesterday, Her Highness the Princess who was rescued by the Lord. XN. Indeed. Although the plot of a hero saving a beauty is very cliched, if the other party is a princess who is not experienced in the world, the effect is still quite obvious. Moreover, Albedo also met the princess yesterday. She looked, indeed somewhat pretty, but she was a bit younger, but she already had a good figure. On one side is the ignorant and kind-hearted princess who saved the slave, and on the other side is the big bad wolf who has long been greedy for meat. I think the Lord may have already taken action, wrote. Sister Ren described Master Ivan very well. Allah, the truth is like this, when you little guys live in a few years, the Lord will definitely not be able to help but secretly attack you. Seeing the three sisters opposite who were still exercising, she couldn't help but ask her. Shinobu also smiled, then squatted down and touched the small faces of the three of them gently. Oh, especially on the round face of the green-haired girl, I touched it for a long time. Unfortunately, the three of them did not feel comfortable this time. On the contrary, because they could hardly hold on to push-ups, it made things worse, and they almost fell to the ground. But they didn't dare to say anything. Although Sister Ren looks like she is smiling, she is in a very bad mood today for some reason, and there is a hint of gunpowder in her smile. So when they started training, they were exhausted from every level. Huh, are you all here? Lord Ivan. XN. But at this moment, a familiar voice suddenly came from the direction of the door. The girls who were still frowning immediately showed bright smiles. However, When they noticed someone slowly walking in with a red-faced Sakura girl, their expressions began to become strange. It turns out that I really went to find a vixen. And they all successfully joined hands. 82 Mensao Princess, please subscribe. Advertisement. Princess Scarlet, whom everyone knows, will be a guest in our home during this period, so everyone should get along well. Don't just watch like this, hurry up and eat. Oh. XN. After hearing these words, feeble and intermittent applause began to slowly spread out. However, this did not ease the awkward atmosphere, but made it even more boring. The newly returned two people also felt a rather awkward atmosphere at this time, and they didn't know what to say for a while. Ivan was naturally okay. After all, he was a man and had a thick skin. This kind of thing didn't happen once or twice. 037. He will bring women back every 3 days. Didn't he bring back a girl yesterday? But for the girl, it is not so easy. When she entered the door, she was actually quite embarrassed. Although it was not her first time here and all she saw were familiar people, she felt even more embarrassed when she came this time than last time. I can't help it, after all, I am being held by the hand this time. Originally, she planned to hide the relationship. After all, she was a princess, and she only met the boy the next day. But it turned out that she was fine, and even held hands and went home. Too shameless. But Ivan refused, saying that if he didn't want to hold hands, he would just carry her back. He said that, sooner or later we will find out. Rather than being secretive, it would be better to show off our cards early. So in the end she was forced to accept the method of holding hands. Alas, now that I think about it, why should I believe what he said? The atmosphere now is really weird. Forget it, let's just eat in silence. No matter what, let's divert our attention first. This tastes good. However, after putting the small meatball in front of her into her mouth and feeling the delicious taste spread throughout her body, Scarlet couldn't help but show surprise. It's really awesome. As a princess, she should have tasted a lot of delicious food since she was a child. But the taste is still much worse than this. Haha, if you like it, Miss Scarlet, just eat more. I made a lot. Did Miss Shinobi do it? It's really amazing. And after hearing the words of the smiling girl with a big bow on her head sitting directly opposite, Scarlet couldn't help but sigh. In fact, when she came to Ivan's house yesterday, she saw this Miss Nin again, and she kept smiling and didn't seem surprised by her appearance. Of course, now it seems that the other person probably has this kind of personality. Even that smile always seems to be hiding something. Advertisement. Thinking of this, Scarlet also felt a little pressure and took a breath. Not as powerful as Miss Scarlet, I was so fascinated by my lord so quickly. PFF'd. Ahem. I didn't. It was Ivan, the idiot himself, who took the initiative to pull me away. Then I choked and almost didn't spray it on the face of Shinobu on the other side. That's what I said. Why does it look like she is seducing Ivan? At this time, Scarlet naturally stopped covering up anything, and directly betrayed Ivan. Of course, Ivan didn't say much, but continued to laugh and eat his dinner. Well, the atmosphere felt weird just now, but now that they have recovered, let them get along well. He took her to many places today and has only come back now. So maybe that's why they keep staring at her. After all, there are actually very few solo dates for them now. The three sisters like Hancock have never even gone out alone with him, and have been trained by ninja. To be honest, he actually wanted to take them out for a walk, but Shinobu smiled and said, let's wait until they can be independent, which made him dumbfounded. I can only watch the three sisters suffer, day and night. Of course, because of Ren's serious lessons, Hancock and the others have improved rapidly in strength, especially Hancock, whose strength can no longer be judged by her immature appearance. In other words, are you an obedient woman who can't help but get angry when her master pulls you? The so-called princess is also quite sultry. No, how can you talk? Ivan, what's going on with this guy? Well, Ace Day just speaks more directly, don't mind it too much. What do you mean, don't mind me? You mean, am I really that kind of woman? Ha. So what, anyway, you will only listen to me, right? Seeing Scarlet, who seemed really a little angry, Ivan W. also laughed, then stretched out his right hand directly, hugged her into his arms, then hugged her with both hands, and put his chin rested on her shoulder. Let me go. There are still so many people watching. It doesn't matter, no one here has hugged me like this before. XN. You're quite proud, right? Tit. Lord Ivan, I want it too. Me too. I haven't been hugged by Lord Ivan for a long time. You little brats, come first served, I come first. Miss Albedo is not afraid of being shy now that she is such an adult. I want you to take care of it. 83 Token of Love, Flying Thunder God Kanai. Subscribe. Advertisement. Really? After all, there are so many people watching, why did you hug me right away? Well, there's no need to be so nervous, they're all around too, right? That's no reason. Besides, everyone gathered around me and so on. You don't look like a master or servant at all. After hearing the smiling words of the man behind her, Sakura couldn't help but complain in a low voice, and then puffed her cheeks, looking like she was sulking. Haha, after all, they are all girls I like. But the man also laughed, and then continued to hug her a little tighter, completely wrapping her petite body in his arms. Although she looked a little angry at first, after a while, her true emotions could no longer be concealed, and her expression began to soften, and then she began to gently grasp the two hanging hands with little 24's hands. He hugged her a little tighter. The two of them just sat on the armchairs in silence, looking at the starry night sky above. When we were eating just now, a few little guys couldn't help but hug us at first, and then a few other people couldn't help it anymore, and they all started to gather around. It really became a farce later on. But now after eating, they all returned to their rooms tacitly, leaving only him and Scarlet. Well, after all, she is going back tomorrow. Although they are now in a couple state, there are some things that obviously will not allow them to develop as they wish. Moreover, it is impossible for her to stay just because of this matter, right? As a princess, she stayed in the holy city of Mariajoy for the man she met the next day. If word spread like this, I don't know what the reputation will be like. Quote. After this separation, won't it be a long time before we can see each other again? However, Scarlet couldn't help but ask at this time, her eyes a little disappointed. Just after we got together, we had to go through separation, which was just like a tragic story in a fairy tale. Being a princess is indeed troublesome sometimes. Haha, there is a phone bug anyway. We can contact each other at any time and call you at least once a day. Moreover, if we go there quickly, it will only take about 4 or 5 days, which is not a long time. I'll just come to you when the time comes. Really, you have to keep your word. Of course it's true. Why did I lie to you? Seeing her innocent smile like a child, Ivan couldn't help laughing. It's true that he likes her, and she really has a crush on him, so why can't he find her? He didn't say that after conquering one, he would leave her alone. Although it is not possible to see each other all the time now, relationships always have to be cultivated slowly. Advertisement. And there is a saying that is very good, distance creates beauty, right? Slowly start long distance contact, and a better image will always be created. Okay, let's keep our word. After receiving Ivan's promise, Scarlet also showed a bright smile on his face, and blinked his big eyes with excitement on his face. Definitely, after all, I am also the Heavenly Dragon King, and take this with you. Huh, is this a weapon? Did you leave it for me to defend myself? Seeing Ivan take out a sharp tool like a dagger, Scarlet also waved it slightly curiously. It's not very heavy or sharp, and it seems to have strange marks on it, which looks weird. After all, when we say goodbye, I want to give you something cute. What's the point of giving this? Haha, although it's not a weapon, it's really for your self-defense. This is called the Flying Thunder God Kunai. If you are in danger one day, just pinch the place where the mark is and call my name. I will be able to hear you and come directly to you, no matter how far away. Is it true? Are you lying to me? You can come here in Dressrosa. Scarlet naturally wouldn't believe it after hearing such ridiculous words. To say that Bai Limi still has a certain possibility, after all, Ivan is indeed very powerful, and she has also seen 277 with her own eyes. But to say that it can be done no matter how far away would be a bit outrageous. Yeah, okay. Just drop the blood of both of us on it, and you can track it at any time. Mine is already on it, you just need to drop more. But she didn't expect that Ivan actually smiled and nodded, which made her couldn't help but look at the unexpectedly exquisite weapon in her hand. Is it really so amazing? So think about it now. Scarlet held the tip of the weapon, then gently slid it on her finger, then pressed the blood against it with tears in her eyes, and shouted 10 words in her heart. 011205524101271381. Fool. Why are you scolding me now? I'm right next to you, and this thing is disposable. You can use it again next time you summon me. I can actually hear it. Send this thing, meaning. No matter where she is, does he mean to protect her at any time? Hee. .84 Shinobu. Sister, long time no see, please subscribe. Advertisement. Do you really want to follow me back? Scarlet, if you want, you can stay here for a while. I will arrange for you to come back in about a month. Really, father, do you think I am a child? Of course we should go back together now. Okay, that's fine if you think so, but can you forget that Heavenly Dragon King? I told you that I don't miss him that much. What kind of relationship do you think I have with him? Okay, maybe I really thought too much. Definitely. Besides, there are phone bugs now, so it doesn't matter, as long as you can make calls by then. It seems that it is not that I think too much, but that I think too little. Seeing the slightly silly but happy smile on his daughter's face, King Riku couldn't help but sigh a little, and then looked at the rainbow-colored bubble in the distance that had gradually become smaller. While soaking in the island, I felt a bit confused about whether to laugh or cry. As a result, my daughter was still attacked by the celestial dragons. Phew. The fight is finally over. That girl Scarlet is really impatient. Not long after she got on the ship, she couldn't help but start fighting. After hanging up the phone in front of him, Ivan stretched helplessly, and then leaned towards the chair behind him. But even though he was complaining, the smile on his face was obvious. Although he and Scarlet had separated at the port not long ago, the empty hole in his heart was now filled. As a celestial dragons, he can get many things he wants at his fingertips, even women. Now he has many girls from various anime and local One Piece around him, and they are all very good to him. Of course he is very proud of himself. But now, it is the first time that I have experienced a situation where the girl I have a crush on has to leave me, and it may take a long time before I can see her. Fortunately, after making the phone call, I immediately felt a lot more satisfied. In fact, if you think about it, this is not the ancient situation of being unable to communicate once separated. The world of One Piece is actually surprisingly technologically advanced. Ah, my lord, you look very satisfied. It seems that you just said a lot of sweet whispers to Miss Scarlet. Could you please share them with me? But at this moment, a soft voice came gently from the railing not far above. Shinobi, who was like a beautiful butterfly, smiled softly and spoke to Ivan. Well, Ren, I love you. But what Ren didn't expect was that Ivan quickly said the most direct words with a smile, which stunned her for a moment. Quote. Allah, I was said something strange, but this is not right, my lord. Just as Miss Scarlet left, you transferred your love, desire and dissatisfaction to me. Advertisement. What can I say? I have always liked you very much. How does that compare to Miss Scarlet? It's the same. It turns out that the girl my lord has only known for 3 days and I are equally important. Because you are both the girls I like, so of course I value you equally. No matter it's 3 days, 3 years, or 300 years, I will still like you all. Quote. People can't live that long, my lord. It doesn't matter. I have a lot of lifespan pills. It's okay for us to live indefinitely. Then you're going to turn into a ghost. After laughing softly and complaining about Ivan, Shinobu slowly sat on the armrest of the chair beside him, and then looked at Ivan with a smile. Now, there are only 2 of them here. Acedes and Albedo made an appointment to have a discussion, and the remaining 4 little guys also went to join in the fun. Then there was a tacit understanding that only the 2 of them were left, so naturally they were able to say something that only 2 people could say. It doesn't matter whether it's a ghost or a human, as long as you're human at heart, there's nothing to worry about. Yeah, that's right. So, now is the time. I can't wait any longer, right? Quote. I'm a little nervous. It's normal. Everyone may experience this kind of thing, so I'm going to do it. Nanos. Quote. Quote. Looking at Ivan's determined face that seemed to be cheering her up, Shinobu smiled and nodded vigorously. Where am I? Am I not talking to Is it Ninja-chan? Quote. Yes, sister. Seeing the beautiful butterfly-like figure in front of him who looked exactly the same as in his impression, Shinobu took a deep breath, suppressed the impulse in his heart, and then showed her an extremely bright smile. Long time no see. Including this chapter, less than 22,000 have been posted today, and we are still working hard. Please support. 85 Kanae. When will you get married? Please subscribe. Advertisement. So that's how it is. I've come to Otherworld, and it's been 3 years. No wonder I feel that Shinobu-chan has changed a little bit. She's changed a lot. If it were someone else, they would be so surprised that they couldn't tell her apart, but you recognized me at first sight. Of course, after all, my Shinobu-chan is so cute. Quote. Sister, I'm 2 years older than you now. Well, it doesn't matter. In my heart, Shinobu-chan will always be my cute little sister. I still like to treat her as a child, just like before. After hearing the words of the beautiful girl with long black hair in front of me, although Shinobu's face was still smiling gently, the corners of his mouth couldn't help but twitch a little. Even though my sister seemed to be stuck in the state before death, in my memory, her personality really hasn't changed at all. Although I look older than her now and my height is 747 taller, my sister's personality still gives people a feeling of being more mature. Alas, he treated her like a child. But speaking of which, I didn't expect that our Lord would be replaced by this one now. If you don't want to accept it, it's okay, you can take your time. After hearing the gentle girl in front of him look at him, Ivan also smiled and shook his head, and then looked at her silently. Delicate facial features, gentle smile, beautiful long black hair and purple pupils, with pink-edged emerald green butterfly hairpins on both sides of her hair. Wearing a standard Demon Slayer Corps uniform, with a colorful butterfly pattern feather woven on the outside, just like Shinobu. Oh no, to be precise, Shinobu is the same as her. Originally, this feather woven was inherited by Shinobu from her after her death. Shinobu's biological sister, Butterfly Kanae. In his mind, he heard the voice of the system, saying that it could be CEAF perfectly summoned in its original form. But before summoning, he was still a little nervous. After all, if there was a difference, or she couldn't accept Shinobu or something, it would be a bit troublesome. Fortunately, these things did not happen. Her character was still as gentle as in the original book, and she immediately accepted the fact that her sister had grown up. Of course, she should still find it difficult to accept it in her mind now. The original Lord became him, and then she herself died and resurrected. This change in the world line is still confusing. Let's give her some time to slowly adapt. It's not that reason, I know that you gave me a second life, and brought me to my sister. I can't thank you enough. But in fact, Ivan thought too much. His kindness to Kanae now is not much worse than that of the former Lord of the Demon Slayer Corps. Kanae will naturally not hesitate, but thank him very much. Speaking of which, Lord, are you and Shinobu-chan in a relationship now? X2 was still curious about this question, why do you think so? Shinobu didn't say anything, but looked at Ivan with a smile, obviously wanting him to make up his mind. And Ivan naturally took the initiative to ask, not admitting it directly, but not denying it either. To be honest, he was a little curious. Just now, he and Shinobu didn't show any overly intimate behavior. Advertisement. On the contrary, Shinobu was so happy that tears came out when she saw her appear. But how could she tell that there was an ambiguous relationship between him and Shinobu? Ah, Shinobu-chan is wearing such cute clothes in front of the Lord. If it's not because she has changed so much in these years, it must be because she is with her boyfriend. X2. Okay, it's true. I almost forgot that Shinobu was wearing a black dress today. After all, she has been here for several months. If she wears the same Demon Slayer uniform all the time, it seems too boring. So he also bought a lot of clothes for Shinobu. At first, she was unwilling to accept it and wore the same clothes every day. Later, after she started cooking, she gradually got used to it. She had no plans to go out today, so she dressed casually, and her sister saw it. Yes, I'm with the Lord. But since it has come to this point, there seems to be no need to hide it from her sister, so she just admitted it. Really? How did you get together? How far have you come? When are you going to get married? X2. But just when she admitted it, Kanae suddenly became very excited, and grabbed Shinobu's hands, asking various questions with shining eyes. Shinobu felt very helpless and wanted to ask Ivan for help again. But this time, Ivan ignored her, but smiled and leaned back in the chair, and then closed his eyes. Oh, really? After rolling his eyes at Ivan with a slight displeasure, Shinobu directly used brute force to pull her sister to the direction of her room. And Kanae, who was being pulled, also had a happy and curious smile on her face, but there was also a little surprise in her eyes. It seems that it is indeed different. Not only his appearance and personality, Shinobu's strength is also much stronger than before. It seems that I need to slowly adapt to this world. 86 It's really great to meet again in this world, please subscribe. Advertisement. It turns out that there are so many lovely girls around my lord. Yes, my lord, he is really interested in women and will attack cute girls at every turn, so sister, you should be careful. Allah, it always sounds a bit shy and expectant. The point of complaining is a little different, sister. After hearing the words of the smiling girl in front of him, Ren couldn't help but open his small mouth slightly and sighed slightly. Although she looked exactly like the sister in my impression, her appearance really made her, a younger sister, feel speechless. From just now, I followed my sister and told her some things that happened during this period. Including the fact that the Lord is a celestial dragon and becomes the king, I also talked about it. And Kanae also smiled and listened, basically not speaking, and listened to the whole process. It seemed that the atmosphere was a bit awkward, after all, she was the only one talking the whole time. But for some reason, under her sister's laughter, she still said these words slowly and calmly. However, Ninja-chan likes my lord very much now, right? I don't like it very much, just a little bit. But when he heard his sister ask such a question, Shinobu felt his face gradually heat up. Of course, the expression on his face was still as if nothing had happened. No matter what, this is a little secret between myself and my lord. It's better not to let 8 trigrams, sister know. Here we go again, Ninja-chan is shy again. No. When Shinobu-chan is lying, he always likes to glare at others, like a kitten whose tail has been stepped on. Although his personality has changed now, this small detail has not changed. Ah, I'm still Ninja-chan after all. However, the moment he heard these words, Shinobu's mind seemed to have suddenly stopped spinning. When he looked at his sister's smiling face again, what showed in Shinobu's eyes was not the helplessness just now, but a stream of tears that could hardly be hidden. Same. She looks exactly like the sister I remember. The Lord really brought his sister back to life completely. DJ. What kind of existence do you think you are to your sister? Advertisement. The image of a little girl who should obviously be full of stereotypes and unsmiling, is now as full of smiles as hers. No, I'm pretending to be like her. In fact, I don't even know what my character is now. The original desire to kill ghosts in that world was gone. If it hadn't been for the guidance of the protagonist, she would now be just an empty shell without a soul. But after all, I am too different from my previous self. For my sister, it should be different, right? But now her sister has revealed all the little details about her original sister, which really makes her nose feel sour. Sister, can I still call you sister? Shinobu sniffed slightly and forcibly calmed down his mood, but his voice was no longer as calm as before, as if he would burst into tears if he was touched again. But at this moment, 2 warm hands gently placed on her hands. It made her feel very warm. Of course, if I didn't have this lovely sister, I would be very troubled, and I can hear you calling me sister again. I'm really happy, it feels like being recognized, it's really good. Asterisk. However, she soon noticed that these hands were not as reassuring as she imagined. It is smaller, slender, softer, and more fragile than in memory. When he grabbed her, his hands, which could barely keep calm at first, began to tremble involuntarily, followed closely by his body, with his head lowered so that his expression could not be seen for a moment. It was only when she raised her head that she noticed that 2 lines of tears had already flowed down her sister's face. It turns out he's just like her. Shinobu, who was also crying, looked at the same Kanae with a smile. The 2 sisters just held their hands, smiling silly and crying. From a relatively stable mood at the beginning, he began to bite his lips tightly, his body trembling could no longer be controlled, and he began to hug the other person's body tightly. Both sides are the same, holding each other tightly, for fear that the other side will disappear again. The worries I had once seemed to be completely unimportant at this moment, and so redundant. Sobbing no longer makes them feel shy, but has become a form of verbal communication. Without saying a word, it can express too many meanings. But no matter what, it's really great to be able to meet again in this world. In fact, people are all emotional creatures. No matter how calm and mature they usually appear, only they know that only when the hole in their hearts is filled can they feel completely at ease. Maybe, everyone is not as strong as they think. Actually, this is enough for you to read the first volume. The following content is regarded as dark history. I guess the writing is very poor, so few people subscribe, so forget it. You can just skip the future chapters of the second volume. 87 Demon Queen vs Ice Queen. Please subscribe. Advertisement. It's okay if you don't read this chapter at the beginning. You can skip to the second volume to read the future chapter, because the writing is relatively slow. Well, it may be considered a dark history. Lord Ivan, why are you here? Come here to see how the battle is going. It's not suitable for me to stay at home now. After hearing this answer, Hancock tilted his little head curiously and looked at the man in front of him doubtfully. The man also smiled without explaining anything, then reached out and touched her head and looked at her. Not far ahead were 2 lights and shadows, one black and one blue, fighting fiercely. In the midair, they are constantly intertwining, and the lights of swords and swords are dazzling, and the speed is so fast that it is impossible to use ordinary naked eyes. Of course, except for a quiet girl with a book present, the other 3 little spectators were also 3, and they were not ordinary people. They can also see some clues from it. Miss Albedo and Miss Acides are indeed super powerful. Actually, I think Miss Acides is stronger, and her freezing feeling is simply unstoppable. I think it's Miss Albedo. Her defense is very strong, even Miss Acides can't break it. Of course, there was only one point. They couldn't understand most of the things, and it was impossible for them to see them as clearly as Ivan did. Inside the door to see the door, the layman to watch the fun. This is the case for the 3 sisters now. Hancock was very supportive of Acides and seemed to want to become a queen, while Mary admired Albedo even more, and she envied her elegant temperament. As for Sonia, she did not continue to make any remarks and seemed to remain neutral, so the scene did not intensify for the time being. Well, it's actually because she supports Shinobu who often rubs her face. For her, Sister Ren is the strongest. No matter how strong these two are, they are not as strong as Sister Ren. Well, in fact, it is the three people's support for their idol. Although they are three sisters, the objects of their support are different. Lord Ivan, who do you think is fishier? But at this time, Robin, who was originally silent, spoke curiously and asked Ivan, who had just arrived. She is different from the three little warriors next to her. Although she has been exercising recently, the gap in combat effectiveness is still too big, and there is no comparison at all. But she knows that Lord Ivan is actually the strongest. So, it's better to just ask him. Absolutely. Without serious action, it would be difficult for the two of them to tell the winner. I don't want them to get hurt either. Of course, the answer Ivan gave was a little disappointing. The four little guys who heard this answer were slightly dissatisfied, but they couldn't say anything. And this is actually the case. The two men have been fighting for 20 minutes since they started just now. The surrounding environment has long been completely destroyed, and I don't know how many craters have been blasted. Advertisement. If it weren't for the two of them spending most of their time fighting fiercely in the air, the terrain would have changed even more. Ivan felt that the best ability he could enhance for them was the flying function. You know, now the two of them, as well as the strength of shinobi, are at the pinnacle level in this world. If a fight really breaks out, this kingdom in the sky may fall to the bottom tomorrow. But it is indeed not easy for them to decide the winner. In the original work, Albedo is the demon with the highest defense in the entire large fortress, but Acides has always focused on absolute offense. Even if there is a winner, it is very likely that both sides will suffer. Therefore, Ivan felt that they should just have fun and not. Well, as soon as I thought of this, Ivan felt that he was too naive. Because the momentum of the two people in front more than doubled in an instant. The pure black armor on one body ignited with raging black flames again, while on the other, the ice sword in her hand began to gather strength. A feeling of compressed air enveloped the tip of her ice sword, even in the space. All a little twisted. The two landed at the same time, and then looked at each other. In their eyes, there was a different ferocious smile from usual. They were obviously excited about fighting. Obviously, it is more comfortable to play on the ground. That's right, one is a devil and the other is a general, and now Ivan is watching, and they don't want to lose to the woman opposite. Therefore, the momentum of the two of them continued to rise. When it finally reached its peak, they both charged forward at the same time, and an unprecedented battle was about to break out. Of course, the premise is that someone is not present. The moment before the two people came into contact, someone's figure appeared in the middle of the two people. Then when they were stunned, two hands stretched out at the same time, suppressing their weapons with a bare blade. Keep them firmly at bay. The girls present couldn't help being a little dumbfounded. Only then did a few people in the audience notice that the figure of the adult next to them was still there, but suddenly hollowed and disappeared in the blink of an eye. And Albedo, who was in the midst of a confrontation, also felt a strong sense of oppression, buffering against her own strength. But the source of the power does not seem to be from Ivan, but more from the frozen power of Acides, who had been fighting with her just now. The same goes for Acides. She felt a very strong dark force that was trying to erode her body, leaving her to do her best to resist. Is Lord Ivan, the master, releasing his power, now? It seemed that he alone blocked the attacks of 2-3.1 people, but in fact, he was transferring his power subtly. Convert all the lethality into softness. In the end, both of them were pushed away. Fortunately, they did not feel any pain, but looked at Ivan with some confusion. As for Ivan himself, although he didn't seem to be injured in any way, his clothes weren't even torn. But with him as the center, a large pit 5 or 6 meters deep was instantly sunken, and the explosion point was right under his feet. Sure enough, their fighting over each other didn't seem to have much meaning. Because the strongest one is their man. Work hard to update. Let's see if I can break through 20,000 words today. Although I am really tired now and my eyes are almost closed. Help. 88 possessive men are so troublesome, please subscribe. Advertisement. Really, master, can't you just pretend to be cool and insist on intervening in our battle at this point in time? Yes. And it's very dangerous. Please don't do it again next time. After being stopped, both of them relaxed their fighting spirit, and then complained to Ivan in the middle with some dissatisfaction. It was too dangerous to suddenly intervene in the fight. Just now, even they felt that they couldn't hold back for fear of hurting him. Fortunately, there was indeed a near miss in the end. The real danger is you two. I took action with full confidence, but you two didn't know how to be careful. If we had really started fighting just now, the whole surrounding area would have suffered. Of course, Ivan would not take their complaints seriously. Rather, he was a little helpless just now. The two men had played fairly well before, so he didn't take it to heart. But suddenly it became serious, and that was no small matter. The environment here is nice and the scenery is pretty good. It would be a pity if it was damaged. When fighting, you have to decide what to do depending on the situation. I just want to fight hard. Woo. 24 bang. A crisp sound reached everyone's ears, and with a clean blow, Aokiji, who just couldn't help but complain, was instantly dealt a subtle blow. Then give it a good beating. Do you want a few more? You can also do it more simply and hit me directly in front of everyone. No, no need. Really, Gong is really a ghost. Even a woman who was usually as arrogant as Aokiji blushed and covered her back, then looked at Ivan with some shyness and dissatisfaction. Of course, it wasn't just her, several girls on the side also had their faces flushed. They now know something about that matter, so they won't know nothing like they did at the beginning. Ivan's behavior just now seemed to be repeated on them, and it felt like there was a burning sensation. That's good. If you are really hurt by this, I will really get angry. Don't be too messy next time. You are mine and you can't put yourself in danger casually, you know. Quote. I know, possessive men are really annoying. Seeing Ivan's tough attitude and rare serious eyes, Aokiji was slightly stunned, but then he showed a bright and slightly helpless smile. However, the red glow on her face, the happy mouth corners and squinting eyes, like a girl in love, also illustrates her current happy mood. Unconsciously, she has become accustomed to this kind of life. Obviously there are no longer as many people to serve him as before, and now he has even become someone else's servant. But she felt that her life was much more fulfilling than before. There are strong men of equal or even greater strength, and she also has a charming man and master. She is really living a happy life now. That is to say, this man always uses a very tough attitude, so that she, who has always been equally tough, can only be forced to submit. But for some reason, listening to his words actually made her feel a little excited. Ahem. Advertisement. She is not that weird Amu. She never behaves like this with other people. But only when facing her master, who usually seemed very easygoing but was particularly tough at certain times, she felt that something was always different. I always feel that following his orders will make me feel very satisfied. I've really become a little weird. However, this shouldn't be a bad thing. It's good that you know, and you too, Albedo, don't do such dangerous things casually, and don't do it casually. After hearing Aokiji's soft words, Ivan also looked at Albedo on the other side. Among the 3 people summoned, now 4, Shinobi has the best personality and will not take action directly under normal circumstances. Aokiji has a bad temper and likes to walk around. He might get angry when he sees something unpleasant, but he is feeling better now. After all, everyone knows her and no one dares to mess with her. Especially the most arrogant celestial dragons, when they see her from a distance, they will quickly turn around and run away. There is no other way, they still want their own legs. But Albedo is the most dangerous. Because she seems to be smiling on the surface, but if she hears someone say anything bad about him, she will immediately go up and beat her up, so when the residents of Mariajoy see her, they don't even dare to run. I was afraid of what she would learn in class. Albedo, what's wrong with you? But when he tried to call Albedo's name, she seemed to be in a daze and didn't respond, so he couldn't help but call her again. Quote. Well, I understand, Lord Ivan, but there is one thing I want to ask. What's wrong? You hit Aokiji, but you didn't hit me. I really hope 690 that you can do the same to me. This. After hearing this, everyone present had strange expressions on their faces. I have heard of people begging for mercy, but I have never heard of people taking the initiative to be beaten. Of course, this fight is also more subtle. But it's even more inappropriate to ask for it. I'm afraid only a brain like Albedo's could think this way. As long as you recognize your mistakes, there's no need for this, right? It would have been okay if he hadn't said this, but now that he had said it, he was embarrassed to do it. No, I have done something wrong and I must bear the consequences, so Lord Ivan, come on. Ahem. Anyway, let's talk about it first when we get back. Seeing the people around him, they all stared at him. How could he have the nerve to do this? 75 is harmonious again. The reason is because, x2, x3, and, x plus an n. I am also drunk. This way of writing is not very normal. Is it considered that I use special pinyin and abbreviation? Please, when the review boss sees this, please help me pass the review for chapter 75. Oh, I'm tired. Please subscribe in a few days. Chapter. There is another passionate main line. 89 Ren's blood pressure is soaring, please subscribe. Advertisement. Hancock sauce, this is delicious, come and try it. Robin Chan's hair is really good, touch it. Sonia Chan's face is round, so comfortable. Marie Chan's body is growing very fast, it's better to supplement it with more nutrients. Quote. XN. I have to say that some people are really born with overly enthusiastic personalities. Seeing the black-haired girl in front of them with a bright smile on her face, hugging the 4 immature girls around her with a bit of distress on their faces, everyone's faces showed some weird looks. Sister, don't be so enthusiastic, people will be nervous. Even Shinobu, who also had a gentle smile on her side, was persuading her with a light smile, and the corner of his mouth couldn't help but twitch slightly. I have to say that she is a little embarrassed for her sister now. My lord and the others just came back, so naturally I introduced my sister to them. It was okay at first. Everyone knew before that my sister might be summoned today, so they went out together, leaving only time and space for them to get along privately. However, after her sister saw these 4 children, she hugged them happily, holding them all happily in her arms, hugging them again and again, very close to them. You are such an old person, but you are still new to things, and this is the first time you meet someone. How rude. If it were a man, it would already constitute harassment. Alas, really, it seems that I have never exaggerated to this extent before. Could it be said that after knowing that there are no ghosts in this world that need to be killed, one's nature has been completely liberated? Well, Ninja-chan is not jealous, right? Don't be nervous, my sister has always liked Ninja-chan the most. It's nothing like this, I'm no longer a child, ###. After hearing these ridiculing words, Shinobu couldn't help but have a hash sign appear on his forehead, and his blood pressure suddenly rose. I originally thought that over the years, she had learned from her sister and her temperament would have become much closer to hers. But now she realizes that some things cannot be imitated, and she will feel very annoyed when she sees them. Well, no matter how long it takes, Nin-chan will still be a child in front of my sister. Alas, really, it's enough to talk about this kind of thing in private. Saying it now will only make people embarrassed. Looking at the girl in front of me who was always laughing, even if she couldn't help but hold her forehead with her right hand, a look of distress appeared on her face. It turns out that there are people she can't deal with. Seeing her like this, the girls present couldn't help but thought to themselves. Whether it's Albedo and Acedes, Hancock and the other little girls, or Shiarly, their relationship with each other is actually okay at best, but not too close. After all, their identity, strength, and personality are all there. The biggest connection between them is Ivan. Advertisement. The only person who has a good relationship with them is Ren. Of course, that doesn't include Albedo. The two of them still tend to quarrel when they meet, but this can be regarded as a sign of a good relationship. It can be said that Ren's temper is indeed quite good, which is why the family is currently in a relatively harmonious state. It seems that there has never been a time when she was really angry or helpless. Most of the time, she dealt with it calmly. However, this time when facing her sister, she seemed a little at a loss. She felt like she was being controlled, which was quite refreshing. But Shinobu's sister does give people a very warm feeling. Shinobu still has the impression that he hides his sword in his smile, but Kanae is completely gentle. When they were hugged at first, Hancock and the others were a little troubled and a little shy. After all, they were in contact with strangers. But soon, Kanae's gentle voice, eyes, and temperament gave them a soft feeling, and they didn't even want to leave now. Of course, they were embarrassed to say this, so they were silent, but they were also looking at each other with their eyes, passing on little secrets. Forget it, I'm too lazy to tell my sister. I'm sorry, everyone, I made you laugh, I'm going to cook now. After complaining a little helplessly, Shinobu chuckled as always and bowed to everyone, then looked at Ivan on the sofa and said, then turned around and left for the kitchen. Although there are many maids in the house, this is the inner room, and in fact those maids will not come in most of the time. But when it comes to cooking, she usually does it with patience. This is her own battleground. This is definitely different from ordinary celestial dragons, but Ivan let her do it. After all, it does feel uncomfortable if a group of people stare at something. When in front of the servants, he usually behaves in a more dignified manner, and it is better to show as little carelessness as possible. Are you going to do it, Ninja-chan? Do you really not know how to eat dead people? But at this time, Kanae, who was still immersed in the cute Lolita, couldn't help but look at Shinobu with a look of surprise, causing more and more hash on Shinobu's forehead. No way, sister, this kind of thing has never happened to my cooking, please don't talk nonsense. But after Mr. Wymingyu, Nuo Dahao, ate it, he shed tears and said he felt like he had seen the kingdom of heaven. Well, that's what he's always been like. It's like this because it's delicious. And my cooking skills are much better now than before. You'll know after eating it for 10 times, Tai. Really. Don't talk about the embarrassing things from back then. My cooking skills have gotten better. Ah. Girls in love will indeed become better, they are so cute. It's really infuriating. Who resurrected her? It seems to be herself. Oh, that's okay. Now it's so strict that you can only use half of the ellipsis, alas. I also forgot to change the name of this book before, due to special reasons, but there is no problem with the content. The editor just suggested changing it, so there won't be anything it has such a huge impact. I hope you will continue to support me. 90 Kanae. Let my sister be with the Lord tonight, please subscribe. Advertisement. Delicious. I really didn't expect that Nin-chan, who only used to waste food, can now make so many delicious foods. After taking a bite of the food in front of me, I felt the unimaginable taste of top-notch food, which melted into every corner and cell of my body. Kanae also gently held her chin and cheek with her right hand, squinted her eyes, and then sighed with enjoyment and happiness on her face. Rebirth is really a good experience. Not only did I have a second life, but I was also able to see the stubborn Shinobi-chan become so girly and be able to make such delicious food. It was really great. Finally, I won't be able to make murderous dishes. Sister, you don't seem to be doing much better yourself, aren't you mostly just making rice balls? You don't have the right to say anything about me. Of course, he would not admit it to his sister, who seemed to be giving advice from a high position, and instead fought back with a smile. It's obviously the same for my sister herself. She hasn't done much cooking, yet she still complains about her. Well, actually we can't blame them. Life was a bit tight before. After becoming a pillar, it was naturally much better, but I didn't have time to learn cooking. Cultivation, studying medicine, etc. are what they want to do. I used to be much better than Ninja-chan by 150. It was clear that Ninja-chan secretly studied in private, but messed up, and then stopped learning in anger. I still remember it. Ahem. I don't remember that kind of thing. It's better to eat quickly, otherwise it will be cold. However, after hearing Kanae's next teasing, Shinobu quickly coughed, then started to change the topic with a smile, and tried his best to ignore the interested looks of the people around him. Alas, there is no way. My family knows about their dark history. What's more, as a younger sister, she used to be fooled around all day long in front of her elder sister. How can she be like this now and always maintain a very calm big sister appearance? Now the more I talk about this kind of thing, the more disadvantaged I will be, so it's better to ignore it as much as possible. Indeed, it would be a pity if it gets cold, so everyone should eat quickly. My lord, I need to eat more. Kanae chuckled, but did not continue teasing. Instead, she looked towards Ivan with a smile, and said to him with gentle eyes. She was still very grateful to this lord. Whether it was saving her life or taking care of her sister, she felt that she owed this lord a lot. It's just that her gentle smile is nothing to her. But in the eyes of some sharp people, it is already very threatening. He has outstanding appearance, temperament and figure, and his personality is so gentle and watery, which is really rare, and he is also greatly favored by Ivan. No matter how you look at it, there are powerful enemies appearing. Yes, master, please eat more, this is good. Master Ivan, let me feed you. You didn't punish me for my mistakes just now. Now I'm here to make up for my mistakes. Therefore, Acids and Albedo started feeding Ivan directly in the middle. Obviously, they don't want to appear too weak in front of this new competitor. Well, I can do it myself. Ivan himself was naturally a little embarrassed. He had admitted that Shinobu was his girlfriend before, but now in a blink of an eye, they started to be so close to him, which was a bit embarrassing. Of course, Kanae was not surprised, but just squinted her eyes with interest, as if she was enjoying observing. Well, after all, she had heard from Ren that the girls here basically had some unclear relationship with the Lord. This is quite different from the previous protagonist. Advertisement. However, it is also because of this that I am willing to accept lie. Otherwise, given the character of this child, I'm afraid it wouldn't be so easy to find a partner. So, having so many sisters might actually not be a bad thing. Let me do it, Lord Ivan, just in time after eating, we can take a bath together. Take me with you too. You can also squeeze in at night. Although it might be a little embarrassing, CEBC. Hearing these two young ladies say this directly and openly, the smile on Kanae's face couldn't help but become a little stiff, and her face turned slightly red. Although she also understands that since they are together, it is normal for them to be intimate. But I didn't expect that such an intimate statement would be said directly in front of them. I should have told her. These two young ladies seem to have listed her as one of their lord's targets. This is a little disturbing. She has never thought about this before. After all, in that world full of ghosts, she was actually very busy. But now, maybe you can think about it a little bit. Speaking of which, now that they are already very close to the Lord, what about Ninja-chan? Thinking of this, Kanae also looked at her sister. Her face blushed a little shyly, but her eyes were full of curiosity, making Shinobu immediately look away in embarrassment. Ahem. Sister started 8 trigrams again. It's been like this since before. I don't care about my own affairs and always like to care about any little things that happen to others. It really makes people feel very depressed. You guys, really, after all, Kanae has just arrived. By the way, Kanae, should I arrange a new room for you today, or should I stay with Shinobu? Ivan was also a little bit dumbfounded by their enthusiasm, but he did not refuse or deny it. He seemed to have acquiesced to this, and the two people on the side showed a satisfied girlish smile and moved closer to Ivan.
No need, I can sleep alone today. Let Ninja-chan stay with the Lord at night. Ah, elder sister. After hearing this like a joke, Ivan was a little dumbfounded, and Shinobu called her with a red face and a rare complaint angrily, while the others fell into silence, not knowing for a moment how to say it. This sister is really amazing. Well, Master Ivan, there is someone outside looking for you. But at this moment, a girl's voice suddenly came from the door. A maid with long blue hair stood at the door, and then bowed deeply to Ivan and the others. Although they don't care about these maids and have no close relationship with them, Ivan and others still have some memories of this maid. Because this girl named Hasilia was also auctioned off at about the same time as Hancock and the others, and then rescued. Now, through hard work and outstanding ability, she can be regarded as a member of this group of maids. He is one of the foremen, handling the affairs of the visitors outside. Who is it? You are from Pangu City. I heard that I want you to go alone for a very important matter.